Hello, everybody. Believe I'm live. Doing it again by myself today. Unfortunately, Angel is not interested in talking about mobile fidelity. So, yeah. Okay. I didn't want to talk about MOFI for a while. Figured I'd let the dust settle a little bit, but I've kind of always made it a point to answer your guys' questions, and I do a monthly live stream. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to avoid things forever. Then we get the Washington Post article that's come out. I will say on a side note, most people don't understand this, but it's very weird reading thousands and thousands of posts about yourself. Sometimes that's makes you feel good, and sometimes you get frustrated and you get angry. So it's frustrating. I'll say that. It's a frustrating deal. But what's up, guys? So let me grab my coffee real quick. Try to get this thing going. Got my Starbucks, got my water. Okay. I don't like... Mike likes the attention. Not all the attention. Everybody likes some attention. Being attacked is not fun. I don't think anybody likes that. So that's not exciting. But yeah. Jeff Eggert said you were in tears at the beginning of the phone interview. It wasn't me. He was actually referring to John Wood at Mobile Fidelity. He's a vice president there, and he is an emotional guy. He really cares about what he does. So I could totally... He didn't cry to me, but I could totally see that being the case. That didn't shock me at all. So... You know, like I said, I figured there would be a point in time. There's a lot of mistruths there, and you know, there's so many things out there. There were some things in the Washington Post that people confused. There was a lot of things that got, unfortunately, confused. And, you know, if you ask questions, I'll answer them as honestly as possible. And, you know, I try to be honest with you guys. I mean... When it all first hit, I was originally planning on doing a live stream, but it just, you know, I made the comment to somebody, and don't take offense by this, because obviously it's not the same thing, but I made the comment to somebody like, something off the cuff like, I bet this is kind of how the guys who developed the atom bomb felt, because... You know, you work to try to do something, and sometimes you don't really understand the consequences until later on. And that was kind of the reason I took a break. It was it was crazy for a while, and I didn't realize it would be this crazy. You know, I like, from the consumer standpoint, I wanted to know things. I wanted answers to certain things. I got the answers. I felt, you know, I kind of was done, and I took a break, but things kept coming. Videos kept coming, and I mean, live streams and debates. It's really awkward when you make a video and then there's like live reaction videos. It's very awkward. I'm not going to lie about that. It's awkward. Yeah, so I guess I will answer some questions. Angel is thrilled. No, Angel thinks everybody is crazy. So that's my wife's perspective on this. She does not care. That is very, very much the case. Just let us know what you think is wrong or mischaracterized in the Washington Post article. That would be easier. I don't think things were mischaracterized essentially by Jeff, the guy who wrote the article. I feel that there was assumptions people made. This is the most common one, just rings a bell. Why in the world would they pick Mike up from the airport and not Jim Davis? I was picked up from San Francisco airport. I was driven to Sebastopol, which was like an hour and a half away. John Wood was not at the San Francisco airport. He was overseeing some work being done on their new pressing facility, planning on opening, I think, the beginning of the year. It was, I think, a 5-6 hour drive. I think he had an issue getting out of the city he was in to make the journey, and I think that was the delay. But you would see comments and people going on and on and on about that one particular thing, but that wasn't the case. So, you know, that's just like a small, it's really weird because when you're there and you're in the room and you're doing something, I don't care the best reporting and everything and this, you know, everybody doing their best work and everybody trying to figure out what's going on. When you're there in the room and you're the one in the center of it all, there's always going to be differences. You know, I guess that's the case. Let's see, Mike, why was your murdered father brought up in the article about music? My condolences to your family. I appreciate that. I guess it was for background. So the thing is, I've not ever hid from my background. I had a very tattered upbringing, and you know, it took a lot of years to get things dialed in for me. So I kind of always looked at my upbringing as kind of a strength. Most people, I've got brothers who they didn't do well. They're still not doing well. I've got family members who didn't do well. They're still not doing well. So for me, I kind of looked at it as a strength. Like I was able to overachieve. I was able to overcome all of these things, and I was able to do what I did in spite of that. So like it's something I've always been proud of. So I don't mind telling anybody that asks. Jeff asked the questions, and I answered. You know, he ended up calling me back to fact check some things, and he was fact checking those things. So I knew they were going to be in the article. And I thought about it a little bit at the time, and I thought to myself, I thought to myself how it's not that any of that bothers me. I just didn't want it to become an issue as far as from here on out. You know what I mean? You spend a lot of time trying to overcome things. I was worried at some point in my head, not out loud, and I never told anybody that really, but maybe I mentioned to Jeff, I was worried that maybe that would be, I don't know, that'd be an issue going forward. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's definitely some elitist mentality out there in the world, and there's a lot of people that are protective of their place in the industry. There's some gatekeeping, I guess, is the word of the day here. The gatekeeping, and you know, I didn't want to run into any of that because of this, and I don't think I have. But you know, it doesn't bother me. Yeah, it's the whole thing with my father is a very interesting situation, and the fact that it was weird. And it was traumatizing. You know, I was 11 years old. I sat through the entire trial, which, in hindsight, I'm trying to keep myself together here, guys, because it's something you never get over. So I sat through the entire trial, and that was difficult. I don't think I'd probably do it all again because I like to, you know, I know, you know what I mean? And, yeah, I guess I'm meandering because I'm having racing thoughts about a lot of things, but yeah, so let's see. Boy, let me try to do this with this live chat. All messages are visible. Congrats on the successful Whatnot auctions. Other YouTubers are starting to do similar. Do you see this as a large move forward, platform reaching buyers? For me, it was just easy to do, and I enjoyed doing it because I can quickly combine selling, getting rid of things, and live streaming things like all at once. It kind of solved a lot of things. So I do see that coming in. I've talked about that in multiple past videos. I do see that as being something that is going to be huge. It's going to take a little while though. Let's see. What else do we get here? let's see. Do you want to make a comment on the Faust record? No, I just, behind that record is a light switch, and I like to put a cool record there. I don't know, maybe for every video. Sometimes they are for a statement, sometimes just because it's a cool record or it's a grail record, and that's the case for that particular RCA Living stereo. Let's see. But yeah, you know, I think about, questions are coming in, and they're good ones, and they're coming in fast, a little more than normal, so I'm trying to keep up. I think about the mobile fidelity situation, and I saw an interview that Jeff did earlier, and I think to myself, you know, I've thought about this too throughout this whole situation. Unfortunately, there was absolutely zero way. People are like, well, how should have MoFi handled this? And let's be honest with ourselves, guys. There was nothing that was going to be like, okay, well, since you said it that way, everything is okay. This was never going to end well. There's just, let's be honest, guys, to ourselves. There is nothing that they could have said that would have made you feel better. Maybe we're going to repress Santana Braxis, and everybody who's ever bought from us is going to get a free copy. Maybe that would have been like, oh, okay. That wasn't going to happen. There was really almost nothing that they said that was going to make people happy. There just wasn't. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are thinking about this whole situation in a very, you know, this is obviously emotional for everybody, and a lot of people are looking at this from an emotional side, but you also got to think from a business perspective. You have to mitigate any potential lawsuit damage or anything of that nature. So there is a huge, you have to be reserved in what you say, because I can tell you from my personal experience in my customer base, a lot of guys who buy audiophile records are doctors, lawyers, businessmen, philanthropists, guys with a lot of money, random guy down the street working at 7-Eleven. I mean, it's all spectrums, but there is an immense amount of lawyers, I would say, that are very, you know, they're paying attention to this. Do you know what I mean? So I think from their standpoint, you have to be smart in the sense that you don't want to, you know, you can only respond in so many ways that's not going to get you sued. Do you see what I'm saying? Let's see. Yeah, people are like, well, they should lower the price. They should lower the price. I don't see them lowering the price. Like, just let's be honest. They're not going to lower the price. The price is the price because of how expensive they are to manufacture. Doing what they're doing is not cheaper. It is not cheaper to manufacture a record the way they're doing. So when I talk to some of those guys at Mobile Fidelity, and they talk about the dire straits, to crate up a Studer tape deck, computer, your transfer equipment, to crate that gear up, fly that over to Abbey Road Studios, is not cheaper with a technician who has to be fed. Obviously, he's probably on the company dime at that point. He's got to be fed. He's got to be housed. That is not cheaper than receiving a master tape in the mail and making a transfer all analog. That's just not a cheaper way of doing it. Like, let's common sense. I told you guys this many times. I bring a pallet from Germany now of records. It's almost $10,000 to bring a pallet from over to Europe to here. It's not cheap. It's expensive. And I would imagine a Studer is something that has to probably be palletized to brought over. That is not cheap. So it's not the cheaper way of doing things. Now, if you contacted the label and said, you know what, send me a high-res transfer, and you're sitting at your desk and you get an email attachment with a high-res transfer, that is a cheaper way of doing it. What they are doing is not that. So that is not a cheaper way of doing it. And then also the one-step process when you're the VR900. I've talked to many people in the industry. It is extremely difficult to press. There's an extremely high defect rate, meaning a high percentage of the records that come off of the press are defective. And from what I heard, it's it's dollars per disc as opposed to cents per disc, or a dollar versus $5. It's that 5 times the cost essentially. So the process is more expensive. So do I see them lowering the price? No, everything is more expensive. I don't see them raising the price anytime soon, which might have been in the cards had this inflation and whatnot continued. I don't see them lowering the price. If they're going to do anything, they're going to lower the numbers. I mean, we'll see. Yeah, I bet they'll lower the price and people stop buying them. No, there's always going to be a X amount of people buying them. Do they do 20, 30, 40,000 of an item, or do they go back and do 5, 6, 7,000 of an item, or 2, 3,000 of an item? That is, I think, more likely what's going to happen. Let's see. Mike, will the original whistle... Okay, so this is the thing that's another misconception. I'm glad Josh D asked this. Will the original whistleblower ever come to light and make themselves known? So Michael Fremer said in a recent video that the same person contacted me, him. That same person, I did contact a bunch of people. That's not the person that I talked to. The person I talked to more than likely did not talk to anybody else. And I had heard things from multiple people. It wasn't one person. There was somebody that was making rumblings. There was actually a couple people that was making rumblings to everybody. That essentially set me on a quest for more information. My quest for more information allowed me to stumble on the person that I felt comfortable enough with coming forward and saying something. Not the same person everybody else talked to. That's a mistake. Okay, makes more sense just to buy an SACD. Well, an SACD is not the same resolution as a quad DSD file, and there is a different process to them manufacturing an SACD to them manufacturing a 1-step. And I don't want this to be taken like I'm defending them, but there is technical differences that need to be described. The SACD mastering happens on a computer in another room. It's all computer-based. File, tweak the file. I'm sure everything's done there. The vinyl version of that same file is done differently. It's done typically with Krieg. You'll notice Krieg doesn't do SACD. He doesn't do digital-only stuff. He does mostly stuff pertaining to lacquers. He's doing that mastering. That comes out differently. It's essentially the quad DSD file plugged into an all-analog mastering console, and then those tweaks are made to the, in the mastering chain to the lathe. They're coming out differently than the SACDs. So it is a different, there's a lot of it. I mean, that's easy to compare. If you got a good SACD player and you got a good 1-step, you could take the matching 1-step and the SACD, and in many cases, the vinyl is better. And there's a reason for that. Do you own a copy of Prince's original Black Album? Actually, one came into the store. The guy was on the fence about selling it many times. We could never put together a deal. It wasn't the price, because what I was offering him was like full-blown retail to put it in my collection at the time, which was somewhere close to 20 grand. He just wasn't interested in selling it. So yeah, had one in my hands, and that was a US copy, which is the one to own. Yeah. Let's find some questions. Almost done posting the mega haul. When are you? So I've got 8 more boxes left of that mega haul to put on Discogs, and then I've culled everything from that, the best of the best, and then I'm going to do a video on that. Maybe the top 100 records, most expensive. So has Fremer reached out to you? No, he hasn't. He has my email. He can reach out to me directly. I think he's contacted me through some other people, but he does have my email and he can contact me. I don't really have any hard feelings there, in all honesty. So it doesn't. I've been angry in the moment. Okay, there's been things that's happened. I was angry in the moment when I'm standing at the airport in San Francisco, and I'm on my way back to Arizona, and then I was watching the reaction video live. Like, I was hot. I'm not going to lie and say I wasn't, but I guess, in my youth and my teenage years, I would have stayed hot for a very, very long time. I tend to be, and I let things go more now. Maybe that comes with age. But, yeah, I got over it. And really, I don't have, it doesn't keep me up at night. Let's put it that way. Let's see. You and Fremer should do a video again. I actually pitched a video to him shortly before all this happened, and I was rejected because I don't want there to be this impression that there's like a war going on in the audiophile world. I think it's a bad image. I think it makes us all look stupid. Like, everybody that knows that guy, or guy A or guy B or guy C, like, they know me, and vice versa. And I don't like the mentality. I don't want records to turn into like politics, to where like I'm on team so-and-so. Like, I never wanted that to be the case. Unfortunately, that's kind of happened, but like, this is way too small. First of all, it's a hobby. We're not talking life or death anything here. This is a hobby, and I want there to be like spirited discussion on like, oh no, I think this is the best. No, that's crazy. This is the best. Like, that's like to the extent of the squabbling I would like to see, but that's just one person's opinion. So the sad thing about this is, we'll see how mobile fidelity and all this comes out, I'm not a fan of the lawsuit. That's unfortunate. I feel like that's something that's going to be, like I said, I personally like Mobile Fidelity's work. Yeah, and I hope nothing happens to them. When all is said and done in this, I feel bad that this happened. People say, well, they feel bad because they got caught. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure they do, but I think it's one of those things that they could do everything all over again. I think they would, and that means something. So, let's see. Let's see. What's up, Echos? Hey, Echos, one of your records bounced back to the store. You got to pick it up. Something happened in shipping. Would you consider creating an all-analog LP section at your store? Why or why not? Maybe when things calm back down as far as getting things in print. I think that's starting to happen. I'm not opposed to that. But there's one thing that this whole situation has taught me. It's that there's one thing that this has all taught me is we really don't know. Like, the new Roxy Musics say cut directly from the analog 1/4-inch tape. And turns out, no, they weren't. They were cut from a digital file. I mean, so until everybody gets on board with some sort of like universal or detailed SPARS information, we have an issue. Let's see. The lawsuit, has one been filed? Yes, actually. Unfortunately, because the thing is too, there is, I don't know if I'm not a lawyer, and keep in mind everything I'm saying is my opinions. Please don't sue me. I have no idea what I'm talking about. If you need legal advice, please seek a legal professional. If you need financial advice, please seek a financial specialist. This is Mike's opinions. But I don't know a lot of what is going to be gained from a lawsuit. Like, it's been my experience in the past, like I've seen class action lawsuits to where, the end customer gets a coupon for $5 and the attorneys get like, $10 million. And I would ask, truly, like, if you guys ask yourself, I'm pissed off, you're pissed off, people are pissed off, but would you rather a $5 coupon in this company to go out of business? Like, would that make you happy? I don't know if that is, like, I don't think that's a very good trade-off. Do you know what I mean? Now, maybe if some guy was like, I'm going to get $1 million, he might have a different opinion, but let's face it, like, that ain't going to happen. This is, yeah. This is going to be, I think it's going to go more towards that way than anything else. Let's see. So sparse code was something in the 80s that kind of signified the source material, the mastering material, and then the final output. So if something was AAA, that meant it kind of went through original master tape, all analog mastering chain, and the final output would have been something like vinyl. So a lot of times towards the end of the vinyl era, you saw like AAD, which was analog, kept everything analog, or maybe the console was digital, you see ADD. And then by the end, they kind of used it as a branding, like as a positive thing, to where you would be DDD like as a selling point, like, yes, this is, you know, the manufacturers did that. This is all digital, guys. And people were just like, woo, this is unbelievable. So, yeah. Let's see. No zap on MOFI. I'm not missing. It's not the worst thing. Let's see. All right, sorry for the long silence, guys. There's a lot of questions. Let's see, 45 took offense to the last paragraph of the Washington Post article. These people who claim to have golden ears and can hear the difference. What's your take on that? Some people are very protective over, I don't know. That didn't bother me at all. Like, I don't claim to have golden ears. I feel like I know when something is good and something is bad, whether it's digital or if it's analog or whatever the case is. I know I can listen to two records and and I think I'm pretty good at getting a consensus on like this. I think most people will find better. I find this better. Like I have the ability, I feel, to do that. I've never in the million years equated that with like I have golden ears and I have a special gift from God to where I can hear things that no other man can hear. But I think in a lot of cases things are quite clear, and some things are recorded so well it makes things more difficult. Dark Side of the Moon, Steely Asia, so that becomes more difficult. But I don't take offense to that. I don't think it changes anything. Like people that buy vinyl, a lot of them buy it for a very specific reason, and they're not stupid, and they know that digital exists and downloads exist. And there's other ways to get things, but they buy vinyl. So I don't think vinyl is at threat of... I almost think people are taking offense, like if I don't say something, vinyl could be at risk and things could go... People will realize they could just easily as get, you know, they could just get a record, or excuse me, a download, or... But I don't think that's the case. So... I'm not defensive about that kind of thing. There's a monstrous satisfaction being able to hold this. This is the original. It's historic. When it came out, before it was in a magazine, and before it was on the Taz list, and before it was $1,000 record, and you know, this was like the article that somebody picked up at a Sears and Roebuck. So there's like a historical, tactile thing that's important for a lot of people who are not audiophiles. And let me tell you, most people that buy records in the store, they don't even know what an audiophile is. So, yeah. Let's see. Melinda, from the input you are getting from customers, are people disappointed but still MOFI customers? Are they done with MOFI? Okay, so this is the thing. So I can see, I have very good data. I sell a lot of records in pre-order, and there have been people that have canceled and they're pissed, and I would never criticize you for canceling, and I totally understand it if you want to do it. But in all actuality, there was people canceling. It was a single-digit percentage of people in the grand scheme were canceling pre-orders from me. And I can't speak to anybody else. They were canceling things from me. The talk about mobile fidelity and the amount of people this has introduced mobile fidelity to, new people, I am selling more mobile fidelity. So typically with a pre-release on my end, again, I can only speak to my end, typically like, so for say Thriller, when it's first announced, there's a big boom of sales. Like everybody gets in on their pre-order. Towards the end, when it's getting time to be released, there's a big boom of pre-orders. There's that middle part where there's a lull, and we're in that middle part to where, you know, the announcement's a couple months behind us, the release is a couple months in front of us, almost no orders get placed. I'm getting a lot of orders, and that is due to Washington Post article, all the talk about it. Yeah, you know, there's an old saying, no such thing as bad publicity, just spell my name right. And I think there's a large portion of people who are upset about things and they've canceled, but there's more people that are probably going to become customers over this. Now that doesn't, if you're not putting out a product that's good or there's better product, there has been instances where the consensus has come out that there's other versions of this record that are better, and those records have kind of taken a hit. The Muddy Waters Folk Singer is a prime example, but there is, I think, a huge amount of people that are just going to rebuy things, even if they canceled it. I feel that's the case. I think that's going to happen a lot when the Thriller comes out. Someone says, tell us something about the One-Step Thriller. The One-Step Thriller sounded amazing. I know last time I made a video, and this talking about this made me actually want to stop making MoFi videos for a little while, because people were like, you're selling Thriller records, and by talking about how it sounds, well, like, it sounded good. You want me to lie to you? You want me to tell you I didn't listen to it and lie to you about that? Do you want me to tell you it sounded like crap when it didn't? I'm telling you what I heard, and what I heard was unbelievable. It sounded unbelievable. And if that's the version that gets approved for release, it's going to blow people's minds. It is. I don't care what it's mastered from. I don't care if they pulled it off of an 8-track. It just sounds good. And people are going to know that, and people are going to start. It's like the Santana Abraxas. Most people don't realize that when the Santana Abraxas broke at a $99 record, people were furious. The forums were furious. People were angry. They're never going to buy a $100 record. This is a crime. This is a ripoff. Once those first couple of reviews came out, it was very, very soon afterwards that was a $250 record. So I'm not saying, keep in mind that was a lot limited, more limited than this, but I think the reviews will change things on that. Yeah. Let's see. Mike, have you thought about joining Rachel's live stream? The only person that's ever asked me to join a live stream is Mazzy, and I did it. So people don't ask. I guess they don't ask. So yeah. Let's see. But should Thriller's One-Step be $100 for digital? That's the thing too, and it's like, I'm a big proponent of analog. If you can do something in analog, you should. If you do it in a cheap digital format to save money, that's a different story. And a lot of times digital is an excuse to make low quality records. You know, ripping things from a CDR is a low quality way of doing things. And a lot of times that's what digital records are. They're a low quality, low cost way of manufacturing records. It's significantly cheaper for me to send, you know, a FLAC file off to whoever, CDR file to somebody, and have them rip from that. That is a very inexpensive way of doing things. So there's two different versions of digital. There's the cheap, crummy way, and there is a very high-end and expensive way. And I would argue that sending a guy across the country or the world with a Studer tape deck to get transfers is the most expensive way you are going to do digital. It just is. Now, I'm not defending the way they handled themselves, what they said, or how they said it, or what they said and what they didn't say. I don't even need to defend that. I wouldn't try to defend that. I'm pissed off just like everybody else is pissed off. But let's just you know, there is some differences that I just don't think are being talked about. One of the things I did mention to them is like, you know, you guys, you need to tell your story of what you're doing here. And like what you're doing here in the forms of the way you make records is unique. Nobody really knows about this process that you guys are doing. Very few people know about it. And I think it's something you should embrace. Now, that was just my opinion. But yeah, Mike, that's the exception to the rule. You keep using Abbey Road as an example. Okay, anything that they've done, though, all of the Sony stuff, they have to go to New York. Again, it's a lot more expensive to ship people and gear to New York than it is to ship a tape to California. All I'm saying is it's not a cheap cut rate way of doing it. It's just not. It's not cheap to do that. So that's just something that needs to be cleared up. A cheap way of doing things would be calling Sony and saying, hey, whatever current digital master you have on hand, send me that. We're going to make a record. That is the cheap way of doing it. Let's just be clear about that. Regardless of how you feel, we got to have some sort of like, there needs to be some sort of like perspective put on this. Outside, you got to think of it as like a neutral situation. You know, you got to put some perspective on it outside of all of this. I think MOFI are still lying. I don't think they are lying. I think now anything that they say or don't say has to be looked through the lens of lawsuits, and that's going to change things. You know, people want to hear, man, I screwed up. My bad. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have did that. It was a mistake. I feel stupid. Like, I'm guessing a lot of people want to hear that, but let's be practical. You say certain things and you're going to get yourself sued. A lot of people are going to be out of jobs. A lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. A lot of lawyers are going to make a lot of money. So there is going to be some cleaning up of things based on that. That's just what it is. Mike, you will be a great witness for the defendants. Man, so I was looking at the complaint, the lawsuit that was filed, and like my video was like listed there. And I thought to myself, keep in mind, this is all public knowledge. I'm not telling you guys anything you couldn't have found out on your own. It's on the internet. But I'm thinking to myself, man, oh man, I really hope I don't get dragged into this. I don't know how that'll be. So, yeah. Let's see what some of the questions are. Mike, did you buy a Lambo from the Whatnot sales? You know, no, I would like to buy another one. I did have one back in the day. It's a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind. I love cars. I have a 1970 Lincoln Mark III that's like got 28,000 original miles on it, but I like sports cars as well. I've owned a lot in the past. I'd like to own one again. But, you know, got kids. That was in a time when I had, you know, a wife that spent less money and I had kids that cost less money. Weren't getting close to, you know, school, college age. I had a Lambo was a Gallardo Superleggera. Let's see, why do audiophiles never talk about music? Man, I like to think I talk about music. Audiophile is a weird word. I love music, and that's first and foremost. And it's one of those things for me, you didn't know until you knew. It's like you don't know what you're missing until you're missing it. And there was points in my life where I heard something that I couldn't unhear. Good systems, good recordings, good masterings, and then like intuitive when I was young. I'm like, why does that sound so much different? You know, why did my Casey and the Sunshine Band on K-Tel sound so much worse than my Casey and the Sunshine? I remember that when I was a teenager thinking that, you know, why does this sound so much different? So like at the time, you know, the internet age really wasn't born. It was hard to get those answers, but I was naturally curious of that. But I own many records that are musically, they're not recorded well, but they're just iconic. I love the Velvet Underground, Velvet Underground with Nico. That is, for me, one of the greatest albums ever written, and it sounds like it was recorded in a tunnel. It's just awful. And I have like this many of those records. I love it. And if I was just an audiophile, that wouldn't be the case. But I love that record. There's lots of crummy sounding records that I love because musically they're just great. So, but you know, I don't know why that is the case. Why do who knows? I can't speak for everybody, which is difficult. So Analog Productions planning on repressing that. I think their whole Living Stereo series is in print. So I doubt that's something that wouldn't get reprinted. I just think classical is not going to be at their front of the line as opposed to a pop or rock record that's going to sell more ferociously. Mike, do you think that the Bill Evans Sunday Village Vanguard will ever surpass the Abraxas in value? No, I don't. Because the Abraxas is so much better than everything else. There are very many great sounding versions of that Bill Evans record. So Analog Productions it's been done many times, and there's a lot of high quality versions of that record out there. But the difference from that Abraxas to the second best sounding Abraxas is they're not close. Let's see, Mike, how did you build the in-groove into what it is today? What would you say is a key element from my perspective? Okay, so when did I open it up? In 2015, 2020. So I opened in 2015, and 2021 was when I took my first day off. Yeah, 6 years. And I took a couple of like weekend vacations, which I worked during the entire vacation. But if you want to do something successful as a business owner, it's kind of like people think like owners. The owner lifestyle is just, you know, you get to tell everybody what to do and then go to the golf course. I don't golf, but doing things as an owner, you know, yeah. Sometimes I wish I had a job I just went to and then could leave at work, but it's just nonstop. There's a lot more that goes into it, but you know, a lot of it is just non-stop. You know, like when we get a little behind at the store and things start backing up, there's like nights I'll work and then I'll go home and I'll answer emails till midnight, and then I'll get up and then I'll go to work at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'll start printing people's orders until we open the store at 11. Like a lot of that stuff is just, it's you know, that's kind of what it takes. Hey Mike, would you concede that after this situation, the people that can detect digital versus... I do. And one of the reasons I think it's a myth, and now I'm not saying all analog and all digital. Now, I will tell you that, but if you were to create things that are all equal, the highest quality digital versus the highest quality analog, and you were to do some sort of like blind test. Now, I know that there's been people that have approached other people who claim to have golden ears and have offered them large sums of money, like in the form of betting. Like we're talking high dollar bets for them to like publicly try to discern between the two. And those people bowed out. So I think we're at the point now that digital can be done like really, really good. It's just not. Almost never is it. And that is the problem. Almost never is digital done right. Digital typically, especially when it comes to reissuing records, is a cheap cop-out way to do things low quality and crappy. And that's just something you need to focus. That's mostly the case. This is something that's kind of like a weird scenario to where they use this, in their opinion, to do the best that they could. That's what they said. So that's kind of different than, you know, when a company uses CDRs to manufacture records. Let's see. What do we got here? So, what are your favorite one-steps? My favorite one-step is the Santana, the Marvin Gaye, the Dylan Blood on the Tracks. In all honesty, so a lot of the stuff that they have done are not titles that musically, like I love Paul Simon's Still Crazy. I love 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. That's a great sounding song. It's a great song, but like, I don't know, like if I need the whole album is like, you know, it's not it's not Sgt. Pepper, let's put it that way. Graceland is fantastic, but I'm not a huge, like, I don't need to hear Carole King's Tapestry ever again. I don't need to hear Yes, Fragile ever again. There's a lot of records that they have done that have commercial viability that, like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, it's not a band that I need to really hear I don't need to hear any more Blood, Sweat, and Tears records in my life. Like, I just don't. So they've done titles like that to where it's like, but they have done some dynamite titles. Here we go. Let's find some questions out of the 10,000 questions that are here waiting for me. What do you think about MOFI removing Marvin Gaye One Step from their website and history? I don't know. I don't know if that's done deliberately. I know they're kind of working, and so what they told me originally when I was there is they're going to be going back and putting information on all of these records, but they would have to research some of those because they just didn't, you know, when you're putting it out after this whole big hubbub, right, and after all this, the wrong thing to do would be put information that somebody can construe as a lie. So you got to expect them to take their time in putting this information out, making sure it's gotten right. And there has been people that have been documenting up, you know, things that have taken announcements along the way. I just think it's gonna take some time. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm willing to give them that time. Let's see. Hello from Prague. Well, hello from the desert. Let's see. Many of the odd choices for once. Yeah, there was odd choices, but I think about they're odd, but they're odd for my taste. But if you're selling out every Carol, Janis Joplin Pearl, if you're selling out 10,000 copies of Janis Joplin, from a business perspective, it's not an odd choice. So, Melinda asks, can you share a little bit about what it's like to tour Mobile Fidelity and meeting the mastering engineers? It was cool. Like, I mean, I got the feeling that they felt a little bit awkward, like, because of what was going on. But I truly got the feeling, and they kind of, you know, and I think some people handle things differently. So you notice in that interview, there were some people that went after them for like laughing, but I think people handle pressure a little bit differently than other people. But I got the feeling that they loved what they did, and they, you know, and enjoyed what they did, and it was cool because they were like, one of the vibes I got was like they were fans of Mobile Fidelity, which is kind of cool because there's not a lot of people that work. You know, you're not going to go to Costco and talk to people who will talk to you in a way like how much of a fan they are of the company they work for. I mean, they'll probably be like, I like my job, it's not bad, they treat me all right, but that's it. But this was different because you can kind of, they were fans of the label, then they ended up working for the label, and now they become part of it. So there was a lot of conversation in that regard. And just touring it, and I've talked about this in the video, it was kind of surreal in the sense that you don't expect, like, this is a mastering facility that is in a building next to, like, you walk through a hallway and it's like there's an accountant over here and there's you know, it's just it's in a building that has other businesses in it, and you just walk and you get there and you see a sign that says Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs, and it's, you know, so that's kind of a cool feeling. Seeing it, it's like, you know, things are never quite what you imagine. So it was, I think for me, the coolest part was kind of, it was like a room that time forgot. You know what I mean? It was kind of something like right out of the early 90s. So for me, it was like old dusty displays from the 90s and the 80s lying around. And it was kind of like the mastering facility that time forgot, I guess, in a way. So yeah, I was there for a long time. So it's hard to put all of that into like an answer because I was there for hours. Do you think Chad's UHQRs will get a big boost from this MOFI debacle? Not really. I mean, because they're pretty much sell out anyways, so what, are they going to sell out twice? Right? And I think everything is about title and sound quality. I know there's a lot of people that are pissed off about this, but if the title and the sound quality aren't tops, it doesn't matter if it's AAA, and none of that matters. So if Mobile Fidelity puts out top quality, great sounding records that best other records, that will be different. If they put out something that's expensive, that's a title that somebody doesn't really, a lot of people don't universally love, and the sound quality is mediocre, that ain't going to be good. So the same thing goes for, you know, the UHQRs. If Chad's putting out great sounding, high quality UHQRs, people are going to eat it up. Now, there's a certain amount of people that buy, and see, that's the thing too. AAA gives some, that is a benefit for people in a lot of sense, that a lot of people will take a chance with an all analog record. So if I could tell somebody this is all analog, you know, you should buy this because this is all analog and it sounds great. A lot of people hear the all analog and the first thing they think of is, well, you know, if it's all analog, they put time into it, you know, there's an acceptance that it's probably going to be pretty good. When you're not all analog, I think you now have to work harder to sell your product. So I think people are going to change their buying habits. They're going to wait. There's going to be a more wait and see type of approach. But if they still make good sounding records, I think the rest will fix itself, if that makes any sense. So I think so, because I canceled my MoFi pre-orders and went straight to acoustic sounds. There's a crossover difference too. Like, I love Chad stuff. So on a whole, because I'm a jazz guy, I listen to more of what Chad puts out than what MoFi puts out, because Chad puts out a lot of jazz titles and a lot of blues titles, and I listen to that musically more. But there's really not a lot of crossover. There's not a lot, you know, there's customers of mine that they're going to buy a copy of Weezer, Mobile Fidelity, but they're not going to buy, you know, Rhapsody in Blue or Faust's ballet music. They're just not going to do it. So the reason I love to see all these companies prosper is because they're really not competing with each other in a way. You know, Mobile Fidelity is making records that Chad, there's been a little crossover, and I think that was a mistake. And I've said that I said it to Chad, I might have said it to Mobile Fidelity, but I'll say it to you, I don't think doing, you know, Chad doing a 45 RPM of Muddy Waters and then them doing a one-step, or that crossover, I don't like that, because there's plenty of other titles we can get as consumers that there is no crossover. Like good high-quality Eagles records are something that you can't even get. Like, I don't have a copy of Hotel California, I don't think, are most of the Eagles catalog. And I'm not an Eagles fan, but like, for the most part, Eagles records are not available new. So let's do that. Let's not do a second copy, a third copy, really, theoretically, because there's two versions that Analog Productions have in print of Muddy Waters Folk Singer. Let's get another record on press. You know what I mean? Let's not be duplicating things. So, let's see. That's why I stopped trying to get MoFi. Let's see, the 50. Not true, Mike. I work for Costco, and the workers are one of the biggest advocates for the companies. There's an advocate for the company, and then there's a fan. Like, do people have like Costco logos hanging up on their wall, or do they, you know what I mean? Like, Mobile Fidelity has created a fan base. Some people have accused me of being a fanboy, but you know what I mean? It's like a Mobile Fidelity, and these labels in general, not just Mobile Fidelity, but labels in general have become almost like celebrities, you know, like musicians themselves, to where you have fans. I would say that I am a fan of their product because I collect the label. Like, if it's a turd of a title, it's the baseball card set collector in me that wants to just put it in the shelf because I don't want to have the missing one. So that's kind of, there's a difference there. Do you know what I mean? Let's see. This guy says, I do work at Costco headquarters and I'm not going to pimp them. That's kind of what I mean. Let's see. Thoughts on Blue Note mono reissues. Which titles are you hoping to see repressed? So everything that's a good non-MoFi question. Everything that is in Blue Note Tone Poet is in print. Or, you know what I mean? They're not out of print. They're just awaiting repress. And the problem is there's not been enough pressing capacity to go back and repress Chet Baker Sings, because you have to line up the presses for the new Blue Train, for instance. That's why I haven't seen Tone Poets in months. For all I know, they could have been making nothing but Blue Note. It could have been the Adele of the jazz world here. They might have just been popping off Blue Trains for the last 3 months. So that has created an issue. Capacity has created an issue. Question was about the Blue Note mono series. So there was that 3 to 6 month period where Van Gelder was doing 2 tape recorders at the same time. He was doing a dedicated mono machine. He was doing a dedicated stereo machine. So we got 2 completely unique mixes. After that, he got smart and realized, you know what, I can just do a stereo tape and fold it down to mono, and then I can save myself a lot of grief. But there is a large quantity, that 3 to 6 month period of tapes that exist in both stereo and mono. I like to see those done. I would also like to see some duplication. I think personally there's a need and a desire for a higher version of, say, Art Blakey's Moanin' than the Blue Note Classic. You know, I talked to Don Was in 2015 at the Wax Record Fair, and he liked the idea of having a title in print as a super premium product, a lower price product, high res download, normal res download. I don't think it would be an issue to do 2 versions of a record. I think there's a market for both. There was a market back then for both, when Blue Note 75s were in, 75th anniversaries were in print, and the Music Matters were in print. I sold both. 2 different customers bought those. Let's see. Let's see. Chad said we are all going to be very happy, and I don't think we're going to be happy with Led Zeppelin. I don't see that being the case, but I think he's got stuff cooking, you know. Hasn't told me what's cooking. I've asked him. He likes to keep... Chad's a weird guy. He keeps a lot of things close to the cuff, but then every now and then when he's not wanting to tell you something, he'll tell you something. But he does have something cooking, and he hasn't told me. A brief discussion in the last auction, Chad. Would you consider a genre specific, like a jazz auction? I am working on that. You know, I got my next Whatnot auction scheduled for Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday. I'm trying to test things out, see what works. Keep in mind the platform's super new. The sellers are a little over the map. There's some guys selling records out of like the back of a storage unit in the backyard, sitting on the couch. You know, like the most amateurish type seller, and then there's bigger sellers. So it's a weird platform. The buyers are weird. The sellers are kind of all over the map, but that's just because it's so new. So I'm kind of still figuring out what works. And yeah, a classical auction. I don't know if that would be good. If I did classical, I might throw some in with the jazz stuff. Let's see. When will the LeBron James solo album be? Is LeBron James doing a record? I could see that. Shaq did a record. Let's see. Do you know whether or not that any new pressing plants would open? That would help tremendously. Well, so Mobile Fidelity is opening a pressing plant. If Mobile Fidelity starts making their own records, keep in mind every Mobile Fidelity record is made at RTI. If Mobile Fidelity's business moves off-site to their own pressing plant, that would give, because RTI is kind of relegated to the space, they can't add, their building is not in a situation where they can accommodate more presses. So what they have is what they have. So if they have some business go elsewhere, that might free them up to make more tone poets. If other places become online, people are going to move elsewhere. RTI is not the cheapest place to press. They're a higher quality, higher price place. So it's possible somebody moves their dollars elsewhere and that frees them up to do more stuff like tone poets. Mike, are you ordering more of the spindle hole reamers? I thought I had them on the website, but if I don't, I'll get more in right away. What do you think of the titles confirmed to be all analog? Do you think they'll try to make more analog ones? So according to the Washington Post article, they're just going to stick with DSD. They feel that, and that might have been something they told me, to be honest, and I don't remember, but it wouldn't surprise me because they truly feel that that is the best way of doing it. So one of the things I will say is when Bernie Grunman did my Wild Times record, I think it was something that was done over the course of, it wasn't, maybe a couple hour project. It wasn't an all day thing. He didn't spend a day on it. This is why I kind of said that Mobile Fidelity needs to get out and talk about, have you heard the leaked remix of Dogs? No, but if that's a leaked remix, I'd love to hear it because I'm curious. Okay, but damn it, what the hell was I saying? Help, guys. What was I talking about? Oh, man. I love animals, so I get sidetracked. When I saw that, I thought maybe somebody was going to be like, oh, there's a leaked version. So that's like the first thought that popped in my head is like, I'm going to be able to go on YouTube and listen to it. And that distracted me. Okay, Bernie. Yeah, perfect. So he spent a couple of hours with it. You got to think this. So I met 3 mastering engineers at Mobile Fidelity. Like, how many Mobile Fidelity records come out? Would we say maybe one every couple of months? So there is something to be said for time. What are these 3 mastering engineers doing? They're putting a lot of time into it. They are spending probably an inordinate amount of time on these records. And I saw that with Thriller because there was like test pressings like this. And they all had notes like Krieg's. And I mentioned that to him. And I think he mentioned in the video, like, are they worth more with doodling on them? Because he would put like too much bass ? Or, he's putting mastering notes. And they're cutting and they're pressing test pressings of multiple copies. And that is not, it happens, but it seems like over there it happens on everything. And you got to think, you've got 3 guys. I think there's a 4th mastering engineer maybe. I see his name on other records. But you got to think there's 4 guys that are spending, 3 guys minimum, spending 2 months on making a record because that's about the velocity they're coming out. So they have a lot of time to do things. So this hasn't come out yet, but I figure this puts it in perspective. So who here has the Alan Parsons Eye in the Sky Mobile Fidelity and the Speaker's Corner Mobile Fidelity? So here's something that I don't know if they could have talked about, but it would have been good for them to talk about. Now, I don't think anybody that's heard this record will say that the Speaker's Corner sounds better because it just doesn't. This record, as my kids would say, slams. This is unbelievable sounding. Unbelievable. Rob mastered this and the Speaker's Corner record. The same title. If you look at the credits, look at the mastering credits. He did the Speaker's Corner version, and he did this. The same guy cutting the same record. That should put into perspective for you guys. It's on Pink Floyd's YouTube channel. It's official. All right. Later project for me. So, but it's never going to sound good on YouTube. So I'm going to probably still not get much out of it. But anyways, the same mastering engineer doing the same record. So there has to be something said for whatever their process is, right? They need to talk about that, explain to everybody in better detail. But like, that's food for thought. Let's see. Let's see. You have the exclusive pimped edition? I think I'm going to put my pimped edition on the next Whatnot auction, just because it'll piss a bunch of people off. Okay. How long have I been yammering on here? An hour. Let's see. Now would be a good time to ask your questions pertaining to this, because I really, truly don't want to, as a record store owner and a guy who likes listening to music and different records, I would love to be able to get to a point in time where we can talk about other things. So hopefully we can get everything answered now. The Speaker's Corner Eye in the Sky was from Digital. Actually, the Speaker's Corner, and I talked to Rob himself, the Speaker's Corner was cut from a tape. That tape was digital, but it was cut from a tape. So, and this was cut from a tape. I think, God, Rob told me in detail about this, and we talked about the sourcing, but the Speaker's Corner Eye in the Sky was not cut from a digital file. It was cut from, and actually Speaker's Corner emailed me this specifically, and I forgot what they said in the email, but it was cut from a tape which was sourced digitally. So yeah. Where is Angel? She doesn't want to be here and talk about Mobile Fidelity. Last time she was out on vacation, she was at her dad's house. Yeah, she was in New Mexico. Now she just absolutely does not want to talk about Mobile Fidelity. She's very uninterested. So yeah. So any shootouts planned? So I had a shootout planned, and I had a shootout filmed, and it was actually about to drop the very day or so before this happened. But I figured after this Mobile Fidelity break, after the Mobile Fidelity break, I wanted to kind of refilm that video because there was some factual misinformation in it that I wanted to clean up. So yeah. What are your thoughts about mastering? You know, so I would like to see things kept all analog. I think that is the preferred way. But the problem is, it's not going to happen. So it seems like Sony is not going to let stuff out the door. And I just don't know if I'm willing to say, all right, everything that Sony's ever done, we don't need to have a good reissue of that anymore. So we're getting to the point now where this is like the golden era for vinyl. This is kind of like the last hurrah. If things are going to be done analog, this is probably the time when things are going to be done analog. And I think in the next coming decades, we're not going to see all analog releases anymore. Because let's face it, these analog master tapes are not going to last for hundreds of years. They are going to disintegrate and break, and particles are going to fall off. They do things to preserve them as much as possible, but these tapes are not designed to last for 100 years. So now is like the point in time where we're going to get the last hurrah. Get your analog while you can. You know, I'm 38. I don't think I'm going to be 75 years old seeing analog reissues by the Beatles, by any of these bands. Those tapes are going to be gone. I think many engineers and people have already come out and said that. So there is going to be a point in time where vinyl guys are going to have to kind of be okay with, it probably bodes well for your all analog records, because there's going to always be analog aficionados. I'm one of them, but who are going to want it all analog. So it's going to bode well for your older vintage records that are all analog. From Elvis in Memphis, MOFI ever coming out? It's been in the catalog for years. I saw a test press. I listened to it. Sounds great. Sounds good. It wasn't as mind-boggling as the Thriller was, but if they got test pressings on it, you would think it's coming, but I don't know. Mike, are you an all-tube guy or solid-state guy? So right now I got all tubes, but I like combination of tubes and solid-state or tubes. I don't have any all-solid-state systems in my house, but they're blends. That's just the preferred way I've always blended systems. Why can't they make new safety copies of master tapes every 10 to 15 years? Yeah, you can, but then what happens? Your original disintegrates, your safety becomes the new master. Every time you make a copy of that, it is a copy. It includes, it introduces a louder noise floor. And if any of you are alive from the cassette era, tell me what a cassette that was copied and then copied and copied again sounded like. Now keep in mind that's a crummier format than reel-to-reel, but you can grasp the concept of increasing the noise floor. So that is the problem with doing that. Let's see. AA Pure, John says AA Purists for a long time used to be up in arms with the idea that they used any copy tape. The 4X DSD thing will be accepted eventually, but they will say AA or yeah. The thing is, and it's kind of cool because I thought we were kind of like dead. Digital was kind of like stagnant on what capture methods existed. We were kind of like, but we started out with DSD and then we did like DSD, 128, like 2 times DSD, and now we're doing like quad DSD. So it's cool that seems to be a part of the industry that is developing, and there's been studios and there's been people that have kind of taken this on and said, that have taken this on and said this is the future. So hopefully, maybe this will become more of a standardization for them. I don't know. The thing is, and this is the thing, again, I'm not defending them in the sense that a lot of wrongs were done here. I'll concede that. Do you know what I'm saying? Things went down that shouldn't have went down the way they went down. I get that. But I like the fact that there's multiple copies or multiple companies making multiple things, and you can buy it or you don't have to buy it. If you don't want to buy digital records, fine. If you don't want to buy from Mobile Fidelity because of what happened, 1,000,000% get that. I truly, truly do. But I love the fact that now so a lot of guys don't remember this because they're newer to vinyl, but I remember like 15 years ago buying records, and if you were trying to buy audiophile records, it was an event. When a new audiophile record rolled around, we're talking like these things happen like every couple of months, like every maybe month or two, you would see a new audiophile record, and it was like the only one. Now I do these live streams, and I think about this a lot of time when I do my Thursday videos, and it's like audiophile, every week there's a grip of audiophile records out. So that's just, to me, it's crazy. So I love that. I like that there's all these companies doing great work. And I don't want to see that change. And I hope that this craziness doesn't, like I said, I hope it doesn't bury them, but I don't want that to change. I like, as a consumer, having many people working on getting me good sounding records. And that's where we're at, where we weren't necessarily at 10, 15 years ago. There was a couple, but not as many as there are now. Did the artists that release with MoFi have the DSD information? I think artists, and this is not my wheelhouse, but I think they're pretty out of this part of the business. I don't think they care that much. Some artists probably do. You get guys like Neil Young who are very specific on how his catalog is presented. I would say as a whole, most artists do not care. Let's see. Mike, how do you feel as a retailer? What would you want your consumers to have? Do you mean as far as mobile fidelity goes? Like, I wanted my customers and myself to just have all of the information. That's what I wanted. We have all of the information. Some people want more. Some people want apologies, and they want discounts, and they want money, they want reparations. That's not where I came from on any of this. I wanted all of the information, and that was it. What am I buying? How is it made? Okay, now, and I want that from every label. Like, I'm not trying to single out Mobile Fidelity isn't the only offender of this. Every label. I mean, these guys, there's a lot of, like, the Roxy Music is a prime example. I'm hearing the hype sticker says cut from the original analog master tape, and I'm hearing, keep in mind, this is secondhand information, don't sue me, but I'm hearing this is cut digitally. And I think that's probably accurate because everything that they've done at half speed has been digital. So we need to, if anything comes to this, I hope like other labels are saying like, oh man, we don't want to get in. Like, Chad has, right? Chad has been like, oh, I don't want any part of this. This, and this is this, and this, and this is, so he's taking note, doesn't want to be in this. And I hope, and actually Joe Harley reached out to me, and he made a comment on one of my videos because I had mentioned that the mono or stereo Blue Train, we know that the main album was all analog, but a lot of times outtakes aren't all analog. I think the Norah Jones bonus stuff was from Come Away With Me, the bonus deluxe. I think that stuff was from digital, but the main analog album is analog. So I made the comment that, it's possible that the disc 1 is all analog, but disc 2 could be digital. Joe reached out to me on a video, and then I chatted with him through Instagram, and he was like, Mike, everything on this disc is analog. I'm going to send you pictures of the master tape. What's your email? Get the email, boom, master tapes everywhere in the email box. He's like, and they're included in the inside of the stereo book. So like, I think if anything, this is made, and now keep in mind, he's working for a major label. Blue Note is owned by Universal. They're the largest holder of music in the entire world. So I think labels are going to take notice of this, and I hope change comes of this as far as just telling us what's coming. You know what I mean? So let's see. The original APP Eye in the Sky was digitally mastered to PCM. Correct. I'm pretty sure that is accurate. I think it was even on Alan Parsons' website that was a digital record. So my point is, and actually Speaker's Corner, I think in an email said that they thought it was analog and then found out that it was digital and then had to make a correction on that one specific title. It's the only thing in their catalog that they told me was digital. But again, I was just making reference to how the same guy with two different processes can make a much different sounding record. A hologram sticker as a standard for AAA. The problem is with all of this is like, who enforces this? Like, companies have to have some responsibility in telling us exactly what we're getting, and then, being honest about it too. There's, we don't need a consumer protection. We don't need the vinyl analog consumer protection agency coming in and inspecting mastering it. Oh, yep. What's that computer doing there? What's that? I don't know. You're going to get a fine for this. I don't think we need to go there. I mean, I think if a company goes out of their way to tell us it's all analog, we got to take them at their word. Hopefully that's enough. But it's, I don't want this to get too crazy. I want, I got to think, it's funny, I got to, like, people equate this to like food and, like organic food and kosher food, I see a lot of like similarities. Well, like eating the wrong food could kill you. So this is nothing like that. Nobody's eardrums or heads ever exploded because they listened to a digital record. And, you know, saying something is kosher when it's not, I mean, that's kind of a lot more serious. That's a violation of people's religion. You know, maybe somebody could say that all analog records are a religion, but it's not. So, you know, it's, yeah. So, yeah. Where are we at in the old comments here? Is the DSD from MOFI ending up back on record labels? No, I don't think the record labels get that DSD. That's kind of the thing that's unique to them, in the sense that they have an archive, I'm sure, of these DSD files, but yeah, it doesn't actually go back to the label. And I can tell you what, you take a label like Sony, who has, what do they got, hundreds of thousands, tens, 20, a million, who knows how many tapes they have, right? A huge label like that. They got to have a massive catalog. I don't know if they take the same care in transferring that stuff as somebody who's doing like a release every 2 months. So you missed my super chat. Let me go back up and see it. Oh, there it is. Wouldn't it be helpful if labels and retailers added an all analog, digital, etc. filter to their websites? Yeah, but the thing is, like, as a retailer, and that's the reason I've tried curating that list, is like we're only good on the information we get, and I am suspect of a lot of information that I get. When I see things on stickers, and I talk about this, and the thing is too, and I kind of feel stupid in a sense, because I've said in these live streams, or excuse me, my Thursday videos forever, if they don't come out of their way and say this is a 100% all analog record, you know, if that's not something, I don't know why I even own this, but if they don't come out and say like this is all analog, AAA, la, la, you know, if they don't come out of their way and they say that, you have to be skeptical. Meanwhile, the whole time I was saying that, I was never skeptical of mobile fidelity. So a lot of the jargon and a lot of the words that are used on hype stickers are not clear, and they're purposely, this is every label, everywhere, they're not clear on purpose because the ambiguity sells. Yeah, I think that's the right word for this. So it just sells. You know, the average consumer sees the word master tape mentioned and they're like, ooh, all analog. Or a lot of consumers will see the word analog in there and they're like, oh, this is an analog record. No, it says it's sourced from the original analog master tape. Every single version of this, if it was recorded to an analog tape, is sourced from the original analog master tape. If you have the single of this, it is sourced from the original master tape because that's what it was recorded to. So there's a lot of educating that needs to take place that hasn't. But, you know, that's kind of a little bit up to the consumer. There has to be, you know, if you care about all analog and you want your records to be all analog, you're going to have to, like, unfortunately in this day and age, we're going to have to, like, work at it, like digging out the details. Mike, does this whole thing affect higher-end boutiques like ERC? I know they have had issues before, but this certainly won't help, right? The thing is with ERC, they make so few labels, so few records. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, the labels, not the records. They make so few records that in a world of, what, 7 billion people, it is not too hard to find 300 people to buy anything. Do you know what I mean? 300 people. You can probably find 300 people to buy, you know, fill in the grossest something, something, something into the sentence. And, like, you probably could find 300 people that would pay for it. So much different business model than finding 50,000 to 100,000 people to buy something to be profitable. Thoughts on Vinyl Me Please. This is a label that I was not a fan of back in the day, who has wildly improved their quality. They started out with the worst customer service, in my opinion, because I had issues. The worst customer service, noisy records, records that came with books that were bent and mangulated. And this is a company that has gotten progressively better over the years, to the point where they now hired Gary, Chad's plant guy, away from him, and now he's working at Vinyl Me Please on their own pressing plant. The records have gotten flatter, the customer service has gotten better, and as a whole, they've gotten to be much better. So they're a big player now. The thing is, Vinyl Me Please does more of the, they're not doing Thriller, you know what I mean? They're not doing the big tier records. They're not doing Kinda Blue, they're not doing Thriller. You know, they're doing an Aretha track, or they're doing a album, or they're doing dynamite records. Don't get me wrong, these are like, but they're not Hotel California, but they're doing a lot of really killer sounding stuff. I'm a fan. I love the more squirrely, obscure, like the Coleman Hawkins, the Hawk Flies, again, like titles like that. And I like their packaging, and I like the little gold phone. They put a lot of effort into their stuff. They really do. It sucks that you have to buy it directly from them. I'd love to be able to sell some of their stuff. That's their business model. And their business, and maybe that's part of the reason they're able to get the licensing, is they're able to go to the label and say, look, we're not making a product to compete with yours, because we're just doing a 1 month, one-off pressing. Although some things come back. But yeah. Let's see. And yeah, the subscription business model, I do, as if I was a straight consumer, I would be a little bit annoyed, because there are records that I end up getting sent that, for me, it's like, I don't want this record. But for me, I have a record store, so I can just take my record and I can either put it on my shelf, or I can put it in the bin with a price tag on it, and it sells. So, yeah. Please check my in-groove contact form. Huh. I'll continue reading that later. Yeah, you can swap it if you don't like it, but you know, everything that they have that's good, I've already gotten. So I can swap it, yeah, for something I already have or something else I don't want. We are still hiring. Mike, please add to your website to show when you've already ordered from a title and not to get duplicates. I'm limited because I don't have a completely customized website. I'm limited on to like certain features I can do without hiring a guy to redesign the website. But you do have all of your orders. You can create an account and you can go back and look at every single order. I know that's not as good as something popping up on the screen that says you've already ordered this, but yeah. So were you going to get a copy of Thriller after stating that the test pressing was really good? Like I told you before, I collect Mobile Fidelity. A lot of their records, even though they're DSD, sound fantastic. Some of them do not sound fantastic. I'm not, not my Muddy Waters folk singer. There'll never be a point in time where I listen to their version over my Analog Productions 45 RPM. Now that I've mentally noted in my head which I prefer to listen to, that's it. I'll have it on my shelf because I collect it, but for me, I find the best sounding version of a record and I stick to it. I don't care how many analog versions of Abraxas there have been in the past. I will never be able to put Santana's Abraxas on and not think to myself, why am I listening to this when I have a one-step on my shelf? So, yeah. This is a good question. I wish I could answer this once and for all, but it's, Mike, if I pre-order a record that's in stock and I pre-order and I order a pre-order, well, they ship together. If your pre-order is over $50 and your in-stock record is over $50, I will automatically break up the order because you are over the free shipping mark, and I will send you your in-stock items, and then I will send you your pre-order items when they come in. If they are not, they'll ship together. Say your pre-order is $50, but your in-stock item is $30. You order that, and then next week you order something else that's in stock. I'll add your in-stock item from the other order to it, and now you have a $50 pre-order. Since it's over the free shipping, that'll get shipped. So I break apart orders to get you things as quickly as possible while still maintaining free shipping for everybody. How will this affect wax time? Well, since they're making them from probably CDs, I think everything's the same. What's up at Coast? Let's see. Have you noticed an influx of customers to your store trading in or selling in their MOFI titles? See, that's the thing. My numbers at the store, and it's a small sample, although I do sell a lot of Mobile Fidelity records, has not been hugely detrimental. So here's like a prime example. So I've had the Santana Abraxas One Step. I had that on the website for like 3 or 4 months. And I actually didn't sell that until after this whole thing broke down. Like, that's when I sold it. Same thing with the Village Vanguard. After this broke, and before they even said it was analog, that's when I sold my copy. So I think, yeah, there is people that are upset. They're never going to buy another Mobile Fidelity title, but there is a lot of people that didn't know who Mobile Fidelity was before. They're hearing 200 videos on YouTube about Mobile Fidelity, and there's been people even on some of those videos. Like, you get these people that are like making videos on Mobile Fidelity records, and like, I never even heard of Mobile Fidelity. I need to go buy a Mobile Fidelity record and hear what the hell everybody's talking about. So it's hard to say where the dust settles on all this, but I think people will definitely be more picky on what they buy, and they will be waiting for more reviews to come out before they drop $125 on a One Step. I definitely think that's going to be the case. Okay. So someone mentions the prices are dropping, which is a surprise. The prices were dropping on everything for the last 3 or 4 months. Once we kind of came out of COVID, and it's not just that. I look at stuff like the Craft One Steps. There was titles that were selling for 3 times that John Coltrane was selling for 3 times what it was selling for just recently when I looked a month ago. So I think people, when the inflation started and the economy got a little bit wonky, I think people started doing an inventory on their life, and as the industry started catching up and now more records are coming out, I think that's made people realize too, to kind of the things that they were speculating on, they're kind of offloading. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but a lot of the price cooling happened before this Mobile Fidelity broke. That Muddy Waters Folk Singer, retail-wise, I think now is probably the cheapest one. I kind of get the feeling that, I'm almost sure that this was trading at retail or slightly below even before this news broke. Okay. Let's see. If they drop their prices to $29.99, I will definitely buy them. But this is a good question, Josh. First of all, $29.99 is a figment of the past when it comes to new records. Everything is so expensive. The only thing you can get from $29.99 anymore is like an indie band. There's very few things. Or if it's a legacy, a catalog title. If it's a title that's been in print for like 10 years and they're just making repressings of it, they're raising some of those prices, but a lot of those prices have stayed the same. Okay? But when a new title comes out, we're not seeing a lot of $29.99 records anymore. The norm seems to be in the upper 30s in a lot of cases, and I'm seeing records that hit $50, just normal run-of-the-mill records. That's becoming more common. So just things aren't getting cheaper now. It's a different story if this broke pre-inflation and all before all this started happening. But with inflation, we're not seeing a lot of records coming out in the 20s anymore. That's becoming a thing of the past. It does happen, but it's much few and far between compared to the old days. Did Mobile Fidelity say when the Van Halens are coming out? They kind of, talking to them, I didn't get the feeling that they were slotted to come out real soon. My gut feeling is they're probably going to not even drop till next year. I think the Thriller, the 40K one steps, has kind of consumed Mobile Fidelity as far as pressing capacity. You know what I mean? I don't think we're going to see a ton of other things come out. We don't know how any of this other stuff is going to pan out as well. Let's see. Will you put more emphasis and effort on classical music in the future? I feel the least qualified to talk about classical music because I find the guys that talk about classical music, you know, discuss in great detail about how the second violinist was having an off day that particular day, and how the third violinist was really on point, and how the first violinist was maybe a little too close to the microphone. They get really down into the weeds and into the detail. I don't have the deep classical music knowledge. I listen to classical music, I enjoy it, so I don't feel commenting on it is like my strongest suit, so I don't do it. I can comment on the sound quality of it, not necessarily the musical. I can comment like, oh, this sounds awesome. You know, this is great. So, but also I don't talk about classical music a lot because the audience is not there. Just isn't. I put in my dollar box all the time records that I remember were like Taz records that used to go for $50. I put classical records that I buy in old collections that have like $100 price tags on it, and they're now in my dollar box. So it is a very, very narrow audience that is shrinking even more. So let's see. Mike, what titles from the last 10 years would you like to see as an audiophile release? I think some of like the quieter pop records need audiophile releases. Adele is like a prime example. You've got this singer-songwriter vocal album that's soft and mellow in a lot of cases, and they're typically on the noisiest, crummiest, shittiest vinyl known to man. So I know that's not everybody's shtick musically, but there's that kind of stuff out there that could benefit from it. You know, you could team up with Poetry on Plastic. I talked to Mike, and I might do that. We've talked about it. But the team up would probably be just him talking and me going, you know, a lot of nodding. But he comes into the store and we talk. He's local. He's in Phoenix as well. So he's come into the store and we've talked about classical, and, you know, he is a wealth of information on that. Okay. All right. Yeah, correct. The number of classical music fans depends on what part of the country you live in, and that's definitely true. When you get to the coasts, you will find, or like if you're in an area that probably has a good symphony, that probably matters. You know, I've been to the symphony quite a few times in Phoenix. I enjoy it. It's great fun. The only complaint I would have as somebody who's not a classical expert is they play a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again. You know, obviously some titles, I think they just do that though because it's difficult in Phoenix to fill the symphony hall. So you're playing, you know, Beethoven's Fifth or Ninth over and over and over again because people will come out for that. So they can't get a little bit, it's tougher for them to get a little bit more adventurous and still pack the seats in. Let's see. They're shooting themselves in the foot by being up in arms. So I don't know what that pertains to. So there's so many Mikes in the audiophile community. Yeah, growing up, that's just a common name. And I think that's just how it happened. What do you think of Here's a non-record question. What do you think of Kyler Murray and his study habits? I have not a clue. It's weird that they put that in as Kyler Murray's the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. By the way, I'm a Cardinals fan. He probably has issues with study habits if they included it in the contract. I know they ended up taking it out of the contract because a lot of people got up in arms about it. I actually mentioned in my Whatnot conversation, the auction, if you give me $250 million, I'll study for 4 hours a day. I'll come and clean your toilets. I'll wash your cars, vacuum your living room, paint your house on the weekends, whatever you need. You know what I mean? So, but that's just coming from a different place, I guess. Any guesses why the relaxed and small batch has not come? I think that pins in with a lot of, I won't say vinyl was in a bubble, but there was a point in time where people were getting money sent to them from the government. They were at home. They couldn't go to concerts. They couldn't go to bars. They couldn't go to the movies. They couldn't go out and spend money, restaurants or anything. So a lot of people were just buying records. And then you had this like cumulative effect to where people are like, wow, these records are worth a fortune when they come out. I'm just going to buy 3. And since I'm home anyways, I'm just going to flip records, you know. It gives me a little side project, a little side hobby. So things are getting back to normal. Things are, I think, normal here in Arizona. I don't know about elsewhere, but things are back to normal, and people are now spending money on concerts and other things, and manufacturing is caught up. We're pumping out more records now. I'm seeing titles come back in stock at a more regular rate. And if you are in the business of flipping something that's not even out of print, more capacity is going to hurt your business model. So I think 5,000 of those. And keep in mind, it's also competing with, I know it hasn't been repressed yet, but Chad has the copy for $40 that's in print. And they went from 1,000 to 5,000 copies. So there's a lot of factors in there. Let's see. Any word on the MOFI Bill Withers Greatest Hits? One of my favorite titles they ever did. And no, I think it's going to get repressed. It's still showing as in print. The thing is, it comes, it sells out, it gets put back on the reorder list, it comes back in another year, sells out again. But it seems like things are getting to the point where we're going to start seeing some inventory stick around. Okay, don't die. It's a good question. So we're getting to the point where we're starting to see some inventory stick around. So I think I'm talking about audiophile stuff. I think I have Brothers in Arms coming this week again. I've got Electric Warrior. I've got a Nielsen title. So I've got like 4 or 5 mobile. Next week I'll have 4 or 5 mobile fidelity. I think I got Local Heroes still. We're starting to get to the point where like titles are sticking around, and it has. And Brothers in Arms hasn't been around for years, and like everybody knew that was digital from the jump. So take this whole thing out of the equation. Capacity has been ratcheted up, and I think the FOMO is kind of dying down a little bit. People are still buying them, but I'm not shipping 10 copies of an item anymore. You know, I'm shipping 1 or 2. How did I come up with the name The In-Groove? It was like a real whim. So I was playing Ramsey Lewis's The In Crowd. I was in my music room. I was playing that record, and I loved a great concert. I think it was, it's a live concert. And I'm sitting there and I'm playing the record. And I was just looking at the cover, and I'm like, yep, we're going to be the In Groove. All I did was take out Crowd and put In Groove. But it's specifically from that album, sitting in my living room listening to it. Great, great jazz record. Yeah, good record. Do you think it's a bad idea to ship vinyl in the summer when it's super hot? I don't have, other than there's always normal record issues with manufacturing, I don't have a problem with sending things in the heat. Records can be 110 degrees in the shade and be fine. You put records in direct sunlight when it's 80 degrees out, you're going to melt them. You put records in direct sunlight when it's $120 out, you'll melt them faster, but it's the direct sunlight is the problem. A record, it can be 50 degrees out. If you put records in direct sunlight, they're gonna warp. So it's just the you know, it's just the facts. But I don't get, like, you could tell when records are heat warped because good heat warps tend to ripple the records, and I never get that. So shipping records, I don't think is a problem. Now, every now and then the post office will do something squirrely, and they'll, who knows? They leave it outside in a box too long, it could be an issue, but that's few and far between. Let's see, the Analog Productions Bill Evans box set supposed to come out this month. In your opinion, is it worth $900? So, I'm not thrilled that it's $900. That was a huge price jump. I think it went from $600 to $900. Is it worth $900? It is, only because it's been selling for it's been selling for like $1,000 for years. Ever since that box became out of print, it's been $1,000. So something is worth whatever somebody's willing to pay for it. And since everybody's willing to pay $1,000 for it, it's worth $900. Would I like to see it for less money? Yes. But, how can they justify the $600 to $900 price increase? Chad is a very present person online, and that's something you will have to ask him. Let's see. Your packaging is so great, warping isn't an issue. Yeah, I mean, I try really hard to get stuff there in one piece. The Bill Evans box is amazing if you like it. It really truly is. Like, and why those titles were never broken up, no clue. I'd love to see them in print singularly, but I guess if that's the case, nobody would ever buy the box set for $900. But that Bill Evans box set is just, it really truly is dynamite. Sound-wise, quality-wise, it's great. Let's see. Do you consider Vinyl Me Please an audiophile label? I mean, no, because they don't, well, yes and no. It's bizarre. If I was to look at what was coming out today, I would say yes. But at the same token, they go out of their way to make a lot of stuff on, like, splattery wax vinyl, which can be quiet, but in a lot of times in the past it hasn't been. But that's changing too. I'm seeing a lot of their audiophile stuff or their audiophile targeted stuff. So that's the stuff that they advertise as AAA. And you can tell they're appealing to audiophiles. A lot of that stuff is still on colored vinyl, and it's coming out quieter. I mean, so that's a rapidly changing company. That's a company that has rapidly changed the way they do things for the better. So let's see here. Is music on vinyl audiophile great? I mean, that's a company that's probably doing everything from digital. I think the things that they do the best are stuff from the digital era. So I will say a lot of the stuff, the Alice in Chains, I mean, yeah, I could consider them an audiophile label in the sense that they're doing a really good job in a lot of cases for the digital era. So the stuff that came out in the 90s, the stuff that came out in the O's that they do, a lot of that stuff is really fantastic. Better than the originals, so they're the best to own. But a lot of what they're working from is digital files, but they're doing a lot of titles from the digital era. Let's see. Has MOFI ever done any Fela Kuti? I don't think you're going to ever see audiophile Fela Kuti records. That'd be cool, though. But no. it's a big no. The Fela Kuti remix, there's Fela Kuti stuff that's in print, and if you listen to it, it's like, it's okay, but you know, go get some Nigerian records and play those and see what you think. I don't think music on vinyl is doing quad DSD stuff. I think that is really very limited as far as what people are. I would say almost nobody is doing quad DSD. If they're okay doing digital, they're probably just doing, maybe they'll do, you know, high res 2496 or maybe 24192, but there's not a lot of labels probably doing stuff from quad DSD. Let's see, the Cure and Allison Chains pre-orders are sold out. Do you think those will, yeah, I think those are going to get wide releases. So you got to do this. So like mentally, I think to myself, if a company has had a title, if a band has had a title in print for a long period of time, and it's just recently gone out of print, typically it's just a matter of reissuing it again. And I think what is happening too is a lot of labels are reissuing things at a higher price. So rather than keeping things in print and then just raising the price, which upsets people, I'm finding a lot of bands are just taking things out of print, coming up with a new version, and just charging more money for it. And that seems to be okay with people. So I'm seeing a lot of that, and I think that's what we're getting a lot of right now at the moment. There's some bands that we've never had a copy of, we've never had a reissue of Tool's Anima. So like, what's the deal there? I don't know. Maybe we get it, maybe we don't. What's the deal? Some of their catalog has never been officially released on vinyl. So that's a different story than a band that's had a record in and out of print for the last couple of decades. I think it's just a matter of time, wait around, and it'll happen. Let's see. Yeah, so Kevin Gray said in an interview that many labels send him 24192, which is PCM. I think the industry has come out and said that and I'm not a huge digital guy. I don't even have a DAC in my, so I can't talk to this, but it seems like the consensus is the way DSD is captured versus PCM, they're wildly different formats as far as, if you look at the specs on it, they're captured differently. DSD is almost captured in an analog type of fashion where it contours to the sine wave as opposed to a flat sample rate. So there's some differences there. But I think we're going to get the Allison Chain stuff, going back to that. Let's see. So 4S DSD is a higher rate, and SACD would be more along the lines of standard DSD. So it's not the same. From what I'm hearing from other sound engineers is, and a few of them have admitted to me off the record, that 4S DSD to them is like pretty much undistinguishable from tape. But they don't seem to think that about DSD. So maybe it's the secret sauce is the high quality. I'm getting distracted by the comments. So apparently the 4DSD is where it's at. The Palladium process. So I've talked to some guys, some mastering engineers, kind of off the record on this, and they speak extremely highly of the Palladium process. And some of those guys have told me that if not for the cost of doing it and the fact that if it was, say, something they could buy as a program, even if that program was like 10 grand and they could do it in-house, the guys who are doing digital would all be on board with the Palladium process. But it's like something that's kept in-house. You've got to send the files to them. They work on them, and then they send you back the corrected file. Essentially what the Palladium process does is there's a bias signal on a reel-to-reel that's encoded into the tape. Essentially what the Palladium process does is it locks onto that bias signal and it fixes wow and flutter and any variance in the tape based on what it knows that bias signal should be. Pretty sure I got that right, but yeah. I hear the Palladium process is solid. Mike, can you have... I need to redo the t-shirts. I might do something else in the future. Maybe a little catchphrase, a little saying. I have no clue. So, yeah. I need to rework the shirts. I thought about doing like a contest to where I have people submit designs for shirts, and then I'll give them some free shirts and like a gift card. That was my plan. I've been having that plan for like a year and a half. It's never got off the ground. I'm always busy doing something else. But that's what I wanted to do. Like, send me your design. If I use it on a t-shirt, I'll give you some stuff. So yeah. But it'd be cool if I had like an on-site graphics guy. There's been like little things that have kind of gone viral in the community, you know. It'd be cool if I could like make quick t-shirts about that, those kind of things, and put them out there, but that's never happened. Let's see. Yeah, John, something along those lines. I don't know. That one might not go over well, but you know what I mean. Any chance to see Dark Side of the Moon at the 50th anniversary? I think so. These guys aren't. They tend to not leave money on the table. All right. All right. I'm looking for questions. Beatles are Stones. That's a tough one. I wouldn't pick sides on that. What do you think of some of the MFSL releases being from DSD64? I mean, when we get into the weeds on this stuff, like, I think the Carole King was from DSD64. It wasn't anything to me that came out as particularly like wowing. If it was done from DSD 256, would that have changed things? Probably not. I don't know if that master can be helped really any more than it has. So I don't know. It really just, I'm trying to focus on the end product. I'm trying not to get too bogged down in the weeds. For me, in the past, analog has always been something that has shown me that the label is trying to do the best possible job they can to get the product to market. Now that might have just changed a little bit, so that's kind of like something I'm having to come to terms with. Yeah, maybe the in-groove. The in-groove stands for investigational reporting. Yeah. Yeah, that whole journalist thing, that took me by surprise a little bit. But I really truly stand by everything that went down. I don't know a lot. I don't know if there was a better way of doing things. I don't know if they would have got, if somebody else who was a journalist went in there and asked questions, I don't know if the answers would have been different. I know a lot of people wanted other questions answered, and they're asking those questions now, and truth be told, if they wanted to answer those questions, they would have done it already, right? So I thought, and to this day, getting everything out was the most important thing to me. And when I felt like everything was out there and everything that we still didn't know would be put out there, meaning what was the previous stuff sourced from, I felt like, I'm done. Bye. So wow and flutter, how would you describe wow and flutter? Can happen in two different ways. You get a tape that's old and stretched out. If you take a passage of music that should be on this much tape and you make it this much bigger, that can create that wobbling sound. And also it comes from like speed variations in the tape deck. I find with old tapes, when I'm listening to old tapes, a lot of the wow and flutter I get is actually from tapes that are starting to have issues. So Mike, when is the next used vinyl unboxing video? I want to do those again. Those are fun. I haven't even touched that Tucson collection. It's just sitting back there. but there's so much crap there that in my back room, I'm going to have to unbury some of it. Let's see. Quote that, can you please make a shirt with a quote that just says, "It's me, Mike from the In-Groove." I thought about something like that I thought about this was a thought I had in my head, and like I have these fleeting thoughts. I thought about that at the store, like putting above the door, "Until next time." I thought that would be funny. I pitched that to my wife, and she just looked at me like, "Would you shut up?" You know, it's kind of like that. "Go in the other room, please." That was kind of the look I got. How awkward was the 2-hour car ride? No, it really wasn't awkward. It was cool because I was asking a lot of questions and he was answering everything like on the spot. I had to go back and ask those questions on camera, but I was getting the answer. And I think the disconnect comes from a lot of this. A lot of people are like, well, this was handled poorly. Truth be told, I think the thought was that they were putting out great sounding records. Like, I'm not agreeing with this, but the thought was like, we're putting out great records. Like, what's the problem? I'm speculating, putting words in people's mouth, but that's kind of like the vibe I got. Like, so it was, we're putting out great records, and this is why we're doing it this way, and this is why we feel we're doing it this way. And they were kind of like proud of their work, which I get, but this is something that they should have been proud about 10 years ago and telling us about. That would have been a different scenario. Then we wouldn't have been in this particular situation. Let's see. Have you listened to any of those Candid reissues? No, I'm looking forward. Well, actually, I listened to the We Insist mono done by Bernie Grunman. That's come out that Bernie cut all of those from the original analog tape. So those are AAA. And ironically, those aren't getting a ton of traction. Like, I got them for pre-order on the website, and I think they should have did a little better job of advertising those as AAA. One of the guys at Candid's done an interview and come out and said that. But if you get Bernie Grunman to master it, you can't just put "from the original analog master tape" on the hype sticker. As we all know, they should have did a little better job of saying that this is a AAA production. Let's see. Who is your favorite other YouTuber? Ironically, it's probably, I like Melinda a lot because a lot of other YouTubers do what I do, and I'm not really learning anything. Now, some of the interviews are good. That's a different story. I watch a lot of the interviews. But being in the business and like all day, every day, it's like a lot of the other people that are doing videos are talking about stuff like I already know. So that to me is not interesting. So I like hearing people that talk about records from a perspective of not being even remotely tied into the industry. So that's kind of fascinating. I like videos where people are exposing me to new music. So, you know, Dylan at Noble does that a lot, where he'll talk about something that's maybe not been on my radar, and I'll go give it a listen. But to be honest, I don't, have a ton of time to watch YouTube videos because I'm making YouTube videos, and I wasn't kidding when I told you like I went years without taking a day off. So, yeah. So there you go. Let me see here. How far is the In-Groove from Area 51? Not too far. 8 hours, but yeah. Let me see. When you go to the audio shows, will you get a journalist pass? We'll see at my next show. I wanted to do Expona, but it fell on Record Store Day. You know, I thought about doing the Pacific show that just came up, but for me, it would have been like work related. So there were some vendors that I would have wanted to see that weren't there, so I didn't do that show. I'll definitely do Expona, like, you know, maybe I'll do Germany. That's probably a really good show. But I need to start getting, it's been a while since I've done shows pre-COVID, so I need to get back on it. Let's see. Any chance we could pre-order the Stones mono box in the near future? As soon as that box has been confirmed and not just on Amazon UK. Once the label sends out in the United States, it'd be universal. Once I get specific information on how much it costs, what's the retail, what's the wholesale, when's it coming out, and the details on what it is, then I'll put it up there. But right now we're a little bit in the unknown category. Mike, do you consider the monetary value of your videos when you speak on, in which way? Like my best videos like make $400, so no, I don't think about that at all. To be honest, I almost want to stay away from those monetary videos. I almost want to stay away from it in the sense like the bad publicity on something like that could be worse. Like, you got to be careful. Like, you make $400 on a video or get sued. Even if you're 100% in the right, like, find me an attorney that will work for $400 an hour. You know what I mean? Every attorney that I've ever hired in the past 5 to 10 years have been $500 an hour. So you need to kind of like, for me, I kind of like, there was a point in time where I made videos and they were like more off the cuff because very few people were watching them, and I kind of said more things. And I kind of get the feeling now, like, there was a point in time where, like, I remember doing a video and doing a shootout, and like, I remember like specifically moving the price of that record a lot. And like, that was like a moment for me where I thought to myself, like, I really need to be careful and not say something stupid or wildly off base, because if you say something stupid and wildly off base and you're wrong about something, or you recommend something and you're wrong about that thing, and you get roasted. So like, there was that, I remember that point in time where I kind of had to like mentally, Mike, did you know this live stream has commercial interruptions? No, because I don't see that. Maybe that's what this flashing light is up here. I don't know. Damn it. What was I saying? So I realized I was having an impact, and like, I tried to be more careful with what I say. My recommendations, I try to, when I recommend something, I really try to put a lot of effort into not having a casual, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, and then move on. Like, I really try to focus on what I'm saying and make sure it's accurate. Let's see. I don't know if you can do that on live streams, Mazzy. If you can, I don't know. Maybe you can do it on regular videos. But I got an email from YouTube a while back that said, and I remember this, and I got an email from YouTube that said, after such and such date, even if your videos were not monetized, they reserve the right to monetize your video. And I thought about that, and I thought to myself, well, damn, if they're going to just monetize my video whether I want to or not, and I'm not going to get anything of it, well, I'm going to just monetize it. But it doesn't equate to a huge amount of money. Let's put it that way. Let's see. Yeah, so that's another thing. Like, I don't focus on the commercials because I have the YouTube Premium. It's $10 a month because I hate commercials. And like, I've got all these other streaming services up the wazoo because of the wife and the kids. And I just thought to myself, you know what? 10 more bucks so I don't have to watch commercials. I think there's one of my guys at work said they downloaded Ad Blocker, which was free, that blocks it all without having to pay anything. So, maybe look into that. I don't know. Let's see. So, any idea if the OJC releases are from digital? I think depending on what era they're from, you're going to get either analog or digital releases, and they haven't been really forthcoming over which is which. There is 2 OJC presses that were in print that were, I don't know, were they technically OJC presses? You had Tenor Madness, which used the old Steve Hoffman DCC plates, and then you had a Kevin Gray cut saxophone Colossus, but I don't think that fell under the OJC banner. I think the Tenor Madness might have. Both of those were available for like 20 bucks for a long time, and those were both analog. But, you know, the other stuff, we don't know. Let's see, YouTube Premium is way too high. What is it, 10 bucks a month? I guess it depends on what you watch. If you watch a lot of YouTube. Yeah, so here we go, another guy. YouTube ad, yep, ad blocker is free and no more ads. Well, there you go. So if you don't want to watch ads, free. I don't know anything about it, though. That's not a recommendation. Let's see, the records are not, you know, that could be the most expensive thing about watching any YouTube channels related to vinyl, because I find stuff all the time watching random things where it's like, this is great, you got to get this, and I'm on the other end of the screen like, oh yeah, I got to get that, and I'm like on Discogs, or I don't buy on Discogs anymore, but I'm online, whether it's distributors or eBay, and I'm looking for that record. So that's $17 for YouTube Premium. Holy cow. I guess it's on auto renew every month. I haven't been paying attention. So yeah, the original reason I monetized the channel was because my very first videos, really very seldom, they didn't even really mention the store. I mentioned that I owned a store, but I didn't have an online website. In my very first videos, I was thinking to myself, well, if I make any revenue out of this, I could just go buy more records. But at that point in time, it was like, you know, we're talking about, I'd make $70 in a month. Now it's, you know, $1,500, $2,000 in that range. But at that time, it's like 50 bucks. It was never enough to acquire enough records to make videos on. You know, because if I'm doing a shootout with 20 different records on it, it was never going to be a cheaper way of doing it. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second, guys. See if I can pause this microphone. I'll be back in 1 minute. Don't go. I'm back. Okay. I had to go to the bathroom. I couldn't hold it anymore. That's why I was losing concentration, because I was thinking to myself, and I gotta go to the bathroom. So I just finally made the decision to do it. Bad habit, I'm sorry. Let's see. Yeah, empty chair stream. Do you think the labels will charge more for the... Mike, regarding Record Store Day, Black Friday, do you think labels will charge more for AAA releases? You know, not any more than what they charge for normal Record Store Day items anyways. On a side note, I'm going to get... There's a little restock of Art Pepper Meets the Rhythm section in mono I'm getting this coming up week. I don't know what that's about, but I'm going to get, you know, a stack of those. But those were what, $29.99? Were they $25 or $29.99? I don't remember. So yeah. Okay, where are we at here? Some of these comments crack me up. Okay, so now we got YouTube Premium is $11.99. Maybe I guess it depends on where you're at. All right, let's see. Just this month, my YouTube Premium went from $9.99 to $11.34. Have any record store day titles been announced? So in the old days, about 3 years ago, they used to tell us record store day titles months before you guys found out. Now, they say what day the list is going to be published online, and then they just publish it to everybody at once. So there's no more leaks. So, yeah. Did you ever listen to the Dylan Monobox? No, I still don't have it. Hopefully it'll get a repress or I'll get one in a collection. I haven't gone out of my way to acquire one, but then if I get one in a collection, actually I might have one in that box set collection and I'll pull that out. But I got a lot of records. The new Chris Isaac record sounds fantastic. Oh man, that is a dynamite sounding record. That's sold out everywhere. I do have some more coming in this week. But you know, the original of that record sounds fantastic as well. Let's see. Yeah, it's crazy. These live... It's funny, I think about this live stream versus what we were talking about 6-7 months ago. Unfortunately, it's a lot more serious. I liked him when it wasn't so serious. But people are upset. Let me see. Vinyl Me Please is coming out with some cool jazz dispensary titles. Yeah, I ordered those. Okay, what else do we got, guys? Did I ever get the Art Blakey Record Store Day release from June? No, yeah, I did, actually. I think I had that on Record Store Day. And I remember customers telling me, like, you were one of the few people that got it. I think that was that particular title. What I never got was, God, what was that? It was like a 5 or 6 album set, 4 or 5 album set. Was it Yosef Latif? I'm trying to think of who it was. That never came. Actually found out the package was lost. UPS lost the package. And that was the record that happened to be in it, which ended up being the most expensive Record Store Day release. Chad's big announcement. Bernie Grunman is doing the mastering and cutting for the Doors UHQR. Bernie is actually the original mastering engineer for the record way back in 1967. Are we speculating? What are we doing here? I don't know. Albert Eiler, that's what it was. Never got that. Still don't have it. Somebody brought one in. They're like, you want this for $300? I'm like, no, I'll take a pass. Yeah. Any news on the Sam Records, Donald Byrd, and Bobby Jasper? So Fred emailed me when that first happened, and he said he got his order from Optimal, and at the time Fred was hand checking every single record, and he said 60% of the records had damage. He said, so I have to allocate your order and reorder them. So I got enough to cover like 60% of my orders, but the 2,000 copies that were supposed to be released never got released, but that is coming back. But that was specifically what happened with that particular title. Oh, let's see. Can you get someone from Kraft to do an interview with you? I don't know. I never thought about doing interviews, to be honest. The Doors reissue, we don't need... I wouldn't mind seeing, actually, John Bandy says we don't need any more Doors reissues. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing stuff at 33 RPM. That's all analog, you know, like a high quality, like the 45 RPM stuff. I wouldn't mind seeing stuff at 33 RPM because a lot of people aren't going to buy $60 double 40. I mean, I've got some audiophile friends. They're audiophiles, but they will not buy 45 RPM records. So, yeah. Your mic is having issues. I hope not. It looks good. You just did the largest interview in the... I guess I did. But I haven't done a lot of interviews. You know, there are questions that I thought about it, because like I would like to interview certain people, but I think to myself, it's like, does that just look like I'm copying somebody? Maybe I shouldn't think that way. But like I do have questions I would ask guys like Kevin Gray and Joe Harley, like things that I care about. I'd be curious to ask them things that don't get asked from a different perspective. So maybe that's something I try to do in the future. I don't know. Because I mean, I do have questions I'd like to ask. And I mean, I guess I emailed some of these guys from time to time personally, and I asked them. But I guess it'd be kind of cool to do it on the record where other people can hear the answers. Is Angel mad you got involved in the MOFI thing? No, she kind of... I don't think she's mad. Yeah. No, I don't think she's mad. She just doesn't care. Because, you know, talking to most... When the guy from the Washington Post contacted me and he said... Give me a second. When the guy from the Washington Post contacted me, my computer is starved for power, but I can still talk while I look for the charger. When the guy from the Washington Post contacted me and said he was going to do this article, and I, you know, the first thing I said to him was like, for the Washington Post? And he's like, yeah, you know, the Washington Post. I'm like, does anybody care? Like, do the guys that read the Washington Post care about audiophiles arguing about records? And, you know, he's like, I think they will. I'm like, okay. You know your audience better than I do. If you say they do, I'll take your word for it. And obviously they did, because in his interview this morning, he said that it was, you know, one of their top stories. And, yeah, so he, I guess people care about it, but it seems to me like when I try to explain it to people, they don't care. You know, I've got a 14-year-old son. And I'm like, hey, did you see that, you know, your dad was in the Washington Post? And I sent him the link. And I said to him, you know, did you read it? And he goes, no. I'm like, well, why didn't you read it? He said, because it's boring. I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm like, okay. I guess that answers that question. I'm still not finding my my charger here, so... So, you know, and then I put it on, like, I sent it to a couple of family members, and same thing, like, they don't care. So, you know, I'll be curious to see it in print. I got to get a copy of that. Jeff, the guy who wrote the article, said he'll send me a print copy of the newspaper. Yeah. Nicholas says, my wife hates me mentioning it. Yeah, so like anybody that knows me outside of records, they just don't care. I really got to try to find this charger. They just do not care about this story whatsoever. It's just not interesting to them. But, you know, obviously, unless there's more audiophiles than I thought, and they were the only ones going onto the Washington Post website, this is awkward. I'm walking around the house looking for my charger, but I found it. So more people cared about it than I thought, I can tell you that. But, you know, that's why I have a record store and not a newspaper. All right. What'd I miss? Take them all out of your will. I tell my kids that from time to time. I said, I inform them that the will be divided by how much I like you by the end. So, yeah. Let's see. Mike, would you stock the Vinyl Me Please stuff? They don't. That's all sold direct to consumer. They don't. I think they had a thing to where they were selling some stuff to Chad because he was making their record, so he probably brokered a little deal. But that stuff is all direct. But no, I mean, I would sell, other than like gray market Spanish type unofficial releases, I sell anything, whether I like it or not. It's at the store because I try to not be the arbiter of what somebody should buy. So yeah. Have the sales of mobile fidelity turntables taken a hit? It's a good question, actually. I haven't sold one in a little while, which is a little odd. And oddly enough, somebody contacted me and they said that they weren't digging their mobile fidelity turntable anymore. It's a dynamite table. It really, truly is. And I've sold a ton of them. They're like, I almost wonder, I should have asked them, like, is there a reason why you don't like it anymore? And you want to change? Because he was almost like he was talking about making somewhat of a linear move to a equal priced turntable. So that's bizarre. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, can't blame them for not caring. It was blown up way out of proportion. I mean, within the audiophile world, within our hobby and with our industry, I think it was the right amount of proportion. But in the grand scheme of things, like really, we probably look like fools from the outside looking in. And it was interesting going on the Washington Post website and you like seeing your face with like, it was like Joe Biden, Mike, Kristen Sinema, a war. And it was awkward looking at that. Like, I guess it's good that we're not all fixated on just the awful things. Although this is somewhat not the best story either. So I guess it's good we're not fixated on just the worst of the worst things. But that was weird. Seeing that was weird. As a resident audiophile, I try to be the arbiter of taste and tell them that their music sucks. It happens. There's a lot of record stores. Most record stores, I think, are like that. The old school record stores, to where they won't carry a Justin Bieber record or a pop record, or maybe they're specific to a thing and they'll ignore everything else. I can't see doing that. I think it's bad business in an era of, vinyl is still niche. It's less niche than it was 10 years ago, but this isn't a mainstream thing. So I don't want to be a niche within a niche, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's no caucusing in the record business. Let's see. Well, Mike, will you meet with Putin about the MOFI debacle? One of the things, too, I find interesting is I always wonder, like, who is reading this? Like, I kind of think about that sometime. Like, I wonder some of the people, who they are and what they're thinking reading about this that are not in this industry. I had a couple of people actually surprisingly come into the store who saw the article that didn't even know that I was a record store in Phoenix, who were record people, which I thought to be really bizarre. But, yeah. Do you feel remorse for MOFI by doing the video? That's a good question. I do truly feel bad. I don't feel bad because I did the video, because the truth had to get out there, and it was like, that needed to be out there. I feel bad by what could happen. I don't want to see anybody go out of business. I don't want to see anybody lose their job. And I mean, I truly mean that. And you got to think, like, in a way, like Music Direct, they're a competitor, right? Because I'm an online store. I don't care. Like, I don't want to see one person. I don't get my jollies off of anybody losing their job over this. Obviously, people are pissed off about it, and they have a right to be pissed off. And if they don't want to buy, again, I keep reiterating that because I'm trying to not get roasted as a apologist for what happened here, but they still do. And I know it's not, people get all fired up, and there's forums online. If you go on the Hoffman forum and you even say this, you your tweet gets deleted or your message post gets deleted and you could get banned. But the sound matters a lot, and they do make good sounding records. So, they're going to continue, I think. Actually, I think they'd be more conscious at this point to put out a dynamite sounding record if you're them, right? You really want to be careful not to put out a turd. So I do have mixed emotions about this and being the one involved in it. I wanted the answers. I'm glad everybody knows. We'll see the fallout. I'll be really sad, though, if the class action lawsuit, well, I mean, this is just the very beginning stages. Let's see if it even goes anywhere. But I'd be very sad if, like, the end result for the customer was a $5 coupon and a big fat paycheck for a lawyer. But, yeah. Let's see what the comments say. Mike, do you ever get records out of the wrap that have little white hashy marks? I see everything, man. So especially now that I started doing the service to where I'll ultrasonically clean your record, like the white glove. So I go through the records. If there's something wrong with it, I won't send that to you. I'll open up another one and I'll examine that. But I'm seeing just all kinds of little weird things. I've always seen that, but now when you're opening a lot more records for people, you're seeing more of that. So there's a lot of weirdness out there. Let's see. What is going on here? I found hash in my gatefold once. Does that count? I've actually found a lot of marijuana in gatefolds. I mean, double digits anyways. That's common. Is there a risk MOFI won't get, that hasn't happened. They've been cool with me. I thought about it when I made this video, but it was one of those things, like, mentally for me, it didn't matter. I had to say something. If something happened because of that, so be it. But I don't know. I think I've tried to be somewhat neutral in this and saying, like, although things were done wrong, things were done right, and things need to change, and things could have changed sooner. I mean, I've tried to be kind of in the middle, and I've tried to be fair, and maybe that was one of the reasons I was invited there, because maybe they knew I wasn't going to go there and set the place on fire. But yeah, nothing has changed yet, and I don't think it will. They don't come off to me as vindictive people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not getting that vibe, but it is what it is now. We're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube anymore. So MOFI should have a front person on YouTube to talk about their future releases. But you got to think, that's like really, this whole talking about things on YouTube. This is like a new concept. This didn't exist until recently. Almost nobody affiliated with labels is doing it. There's a couple. You know, Joe does things for Blue Note. Chad does things for his label, but I think that's something that will probably change in the past. But I think we're like at the beginning stages of that. You know, that'll probably change. It'll probably be, but it's hard to be a vocal spokesperson, I guess. It's different when you're the owner, but it's hard to be a vocal to hire somebody to do that. Like, I try to think of, like, I don't know if I could hire somebody to do what I do. So, yeah. MOFI still hasn't declared on Tiger Lily yet. So there, like I said, there are some of these titles. Tiger Lily is old. I want to say that's 2000, pre-2010. It's in that range anywhere because it uses that silver 40, like it was right when they started doing 45 RPMs, double disc presses. So they're obviously, I would really, and again, I haven't talked to them about this. I haven't really even talked to them in a week, but a couple weeks since this went down. But I really feel like they're trying to make sure the information they put out is factual. So it seems though every couple of days I'm seeing updates, so they are working on it. So Norman says they need to come into the 21st century, you know, and I mentioned that to them. I really did, because they would show me something and they were like, man, you could tell they were like enthusiastic about it. Like, this is awesome. We do this and it's awesome the way we do this, whatever particular thing. Just, and I'm like, well, you got to tell somebody that. Like, that has to be a selling point, and more than just like they went on about the Tim DePavarcini deck, and they've talked about it a little bit in the past, but that's not something that most of you guys have probably ever heard of even before this. Like, they definitely have to do a better job of communicating what you're buying, especially at this point in time. Like, I think we need to, you know, and I might try to do something with them to where I would love to be able to, I think all of the labels that are putting out audiophile specific titles should talk about it. Chad does this, but should talk about, now there's label restrictions, which are an issue. A lot of labels have restrictions, but as much as they can talk about should be talked about. If you're proud of the product you're making, you should, like, I don't know how many of you guys have been watching me for very long, but here, I'll show you something. So let me see if I can find it. All right, where is it at? Okay, here it is. So if you guys have been watching me for a while, you might have seen this record. It's the record that I did with Johnny D. I was proud of this record, and I talked about it over and over and over and over, and I'm actually talking about it again because I was proud of it. And if you're proud of something that you're making, you should talk about it, and you should tell people why you're proud about it. Ironically, I'm looking at this hype sticker thinking back on, I wanted to make it, I used every single buzzword I possibly could on the cover to specifically let you know that this was an all analog production. So the hype sticker, a spectacular AAA psychedelic masterpiece from Arizona's top 60 studio, and then again, cut by Bernie Grumman from the original master tapes. And then I included that with like mini conversations about the process of this. Now, granted, it was just one record, but I don't think you're doing yourself a disservice as a company by just going on and on about how great your product is. It hasn't hurt Chad, I can tell you that. So it's something that needs to be, you know, that needs to be talked about. And but they've never done that. And Norman makes a good point. Here's a good point here too. So here's F. Martin. Mike, it's not as much about the money as somebody might get from the lawsuit. It's about making Mobile Fidelity understand that they cannot lie to their customers. And I get that. That's a valid argument, but I worry that them understanding can result in them not being here. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I can only imagine what big class action lawsuits cost to defend. So if there was a way to do that without crushing them, I would be for that. But I don't know. You tell me. You're in a nice suit there and a tie in your photo. Are you a lawyer? Is there a way to do it without, you know what I mean? Is there a way to do it without, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think they understand that. Actually, the more I think about this, like, I think John Wood said in that that Washington Post article that he regrets all this. I don't think for a minute that they don't think that there was mistakes made. I feel like they're looking back on this, and that's just my gut. I'm not speaking for them, but my gut is there's a lot of bad publicity, right? So that's kind of a punishment in itself. There's a lot of bad that's come from this because of this. Do you know what I mean? I get it. I see both sides of the story. I mean, like, I understand things, but I feel bad about, like, do you know what I mean? I feel bad about it at the same time. Does that make sense? Doctor, well, you have a very, I like your tie. But what do you think, Martin? I don't know your first name. I don't want to call you F. But what do you think, Martin? I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean when I say that it's like sending a message with a cannon sometimes is not maybe the right way of doing it. But that's just my opinion, and it means only that of one person. Mike, do you know any Hungarian pop music? You like them? I had one Hungarian pop record come in the store, and I sold it. It sat on my shelf forever, and it was not cheap. It was like a Hungarian, God, what was that? I'm trying to think of it. And I regretted selling it because it used to sit right above my desk on the wall, and I used to listen to it all the time. Like, I would just look at it and be like, I'm going to put that on. And I probably listened to it 50 times before I sold it. But no, it's not something I know a lot about. Going to see Roger Waters in a few months, so am I. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that. I've seen him twice before. Going to see Nick Mason too, Saucer Full of Secrets. Cheap and just as good. The issue is it was a concise effort not to tell the truth. That's the juggernaut. At some point, I don't know. It's tough to say. Maybe not. I mean, I don't know. You don't know. We don't know. They've said some, but very little. And I really don't know what their intentions are. I don't know if it was like one of those things like where something small, like an omission, turned into a big thing. That's possible. It's possible that they had boardroom meetings and decided this. I don't know. But there's multiple possibilities here. I don't think we're to the point now where we can say definitively that this is the reason things were done. There's just a lot that's not known, you know. And unless we have like the January 6th equivalent for vinyl, I don't know if a lot of these answers will ever come. Would you ever consider charging a fair price to inspect a new record with a new sleeve and bypass the cleaning process? To be honest, a lot of people are like, and I charge $8 to do this, and I almost regretted offering the service after I did it because there was one record. There was the Queen box set. There was a Queen box set, and I had so many issues. I opened like 6 box sets to put one good box set together for a guy. And I thought to myself, my God, this is a nightmare. Why did I do this? Because I have such high standards before I send things out. But no, I think that price that I'm charging is fair. It's not the cleaning that's the costly fact. It's the weeding out. Because a lot of people, it's not the audiophile labels. A lot of people are getting that service on like records that are low price colored records that are notorious for being more susceptible to damage. You know, if I was only having to do that with Impex records, it's like free money at that point because they're almost all perfect. But that's not what it's turning out to be. So, yeah. Regret the omission or regret having the cat out of the bag? I don't know. I would think everything. But I don't know. Nobody knows. I mean, I guess they know, but I don't know. But Josh D says, inviting you to the facility was definitely a disaster for them. I would love, and nobody has been ever to clarify this in something to a way to me that's believable. What way could they have handled this that wouldn't have been a disaster? If they got a PR firm to kind of craft a nice statement, lawyered it up a little bit, did it in all nice and a spiffy way, would that have worked? It wasn't going to work. There was no way, I'm telling you, there was no way to polish this turd. You can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit and you weren't polishing this turd. It wasn't going to go well. It just wasn't going to happen. You know, wasn't going to happen. Like, I truly believe that. And I mean, I think you guys need to come around to that level of thought and truly think about it. If they said, because when they came out, you know, when Jim Davis came out with the statement, it was similar in the fact that, you know, I'm sure that was crafted with the help of somebody, and like nobody was happy with that. I mean, look at the comments. It was all like, the comments were self-explanatory. Almost nobody was like, okay, this is great. Everything's all better now. That wasn't the comments I was seeing. So there was no way to make this good. The only way to make this good was to get back in Mr. Peabody's Wayback Machine. We went back to the beginning and they just didn't do it. But I don't know where Mr. Peabody is. I don't know where the Wayback Machine is located. I couldn't have done it. I don't think they could have did it. They shouldn't have did it from this way to the beginning. But other than going back and fixing it, there was no way this was going to turn out well. There was no way. And I truly believe that. I refuse to believe it could have been handled in a better way. Let's see. Mobile Fidelity's reputation has taken a huge hit. In your opinion, is that punishment enough? God, I'm not a judge. I don't want to pass judgment on anybody. I don't think them going out of business is a storied brand, the pioneer of audiophile reissues. I do not think that's too much. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not the one that gets to decide that, so it's not up to me. Do you know what I mean? Please, let's turn the page on the MOFI thing. I really, truly hope this is the turning of the page. I knew that this live stream was coming. I knew that I was going to have to address this because I wasn't going to hide from it. Like, I wanted to take a break when the shit hit the fan. I wanted to take a break and just let everything go on. But I really do want to turn the page on this. But it just seems like, yeah, it just seems like the page turning is, I don't know, hopefully soon. But keep in mind, when I do these live streams, I'm doing these live streams answering questions for people, and it's like the questions keep coming. So obviously people aren't ready to turn the page. I guess everyone likes drama. Reality TV exists for that reason. That's, you know, everything you read on the news is somebody's drama, whether it's political drama or celebrity drama. Now we got record drama. Let's see. Josh says, what punishment, Melinda Murphy? There's nothing happened other than a few canceled pre-orders. I don't think that's true. Mobile Fidelity was thought of for decades as the top, most storied audiophile reissue label in the world. And that was pretty much, I would say, not something that could be argued. I mean, other people have come out and said that they didn't feel that that was the top reissue label at the time. This is a company that pretty much invented the audiophile reissue. They were doing reissues back when reissues weren't even a thing. It was either in print or it wasn't. This is before reissue houses even existed, for that matter. So that's, I don't know if that, and I don't know, we'll see, but I think that is not so laid in stone as it was, say, 6 months ago. So it's not just a couple of pre-orders. There's a reputational thing on the line here. Can you confirm whether or not the Impex and Craft one steps are all analog? Man, I think so. The way they've worded it, they showed master tapes and the paperwork. I would really truly think so. Mr. Peabody, Mike, are you sure you're 38? I know I'm aging rapidly, physically. And as you can tell by owning a record store and fumbling with technology, I prefer things that are old. But that's, you know, it's one of my classic lines. I use that with Angel a lot, actually, when we get in arguments. But she gets on me about, you know, something that could have been done differently. And it's like, look, I'm sorry. We can keep talking about something that could have been done differently, but it ain't going to change it. You know, it is what it is. Let's see. Mike, you keep sucking down that water. Yeah, I know. But, you know, this is if I don't drink something, I start coughing. Mike, new fan here. My question is about how you catalog your albums. I'm steadily working through mine with Discogs and wondering what you did the same or similar process. It took me 3-4 years to get through rock on Discogs of just the stuff that are on my shelves in this room. There's multiple rooms of stuff that I don't have on there, boxes. I don't know. Like, that's my goal. But to be honest, it would take me a year straight to do it, like as a full-time job, to get it all on there. So whether it ever happens or not, I don't know. Can't believe I'm 30 years older than Mike. I know. You're like a better looking guy too. Or maybe it's the hat. Maybe I need a hat. I don't know. It's upsetting. I had hair. My wife pulled it all out. What she didn't pull out, the kids helped make fallout. So, yeah. Great live chat going along. Yeah, so it's one of those days I don't have anything to do. So I'm just chatting. Yeah, Maz, you only look 29 years older, so you got that going for you. Ah, man, this is a bummer in a way, because I really am hoping it was these live streams were a lot different, and I don't know how quick it's going to be going back to them, but I think the industry has definitely changed as a whole because of all of this. Now, football hasn't started, yeah. Once football starts, these live streams are going to be scheduled differently. Where's Angel? She's out shopping. Let's see. My go-to of the Stone Sticky Fingers is like a U.S. original. I really just, dig a U.S. original. There's a Mastering Lab, Doug Sachs cut Sticky Fingers, German Sticky Fingers. That's really good. But I really dig the original Sticky Fingers. That's one of those records that's really, I don't think, there's different variations within the first pressing that some sound better than others. But I don't think that's ever been reissued better than the original. Do I ever think I'll see in a Beatles mono reissued? Man, you would think they would. There's got to be somebody looking at that saying, boy, people are paying $2,000 for that box set and $300, $400 for just the individual titles. There's probably a market here. Martin says, no matter what, I feel grateful that you shed light on all this and will be buying all the records from you moving forward. That's fantastic news. I don't find something online that's worth an email. Yeah, you can email the store. There are things like that I can get that I wouldn't normally think of ordering, and I'll bring it in. A lot of times people email me on stuff that I would totally get, but like the Rolling Stones mono box, like 110% I'm going to have that once it's made available. So some stuff, keep in mind, it's like really regional. There's like this bizarre, it's weird to think about in 2022, but there's like all these different regional licenses to where something can come out in this country and not this one, and then I got to order it, and I got to hope I have a distributor that's locked up in that country where I can bring it in. Here's something that's actually, this is very good. So I've seen some live streams. I've seen some people talking about how mobile fidelity, this cracks me up. So within the vinyl community and the people that are actually that make records, there's this disconnect that they think that the labels, whether it's MOFI or Chad, or now Chad does things differently because he likes to do what he likes. That's what he reissues. But they should do more 90s stuff, and they should do more 2000 stuff. It's not that they don't want to do those things, and I've said this in the past. It is much, much harder to get license to do something from a much more modern band than it is an older band. When you get into a situation to where the artist is passed, or they don't have a lot of input on their catalog anymore, or it's now become their catalog is an autopilot. It's being, those licenses and clearances to do that stuff are significantly easier than getting it from a more modern band that is still actively putting out records, who they still have a lot more say in it. I, for a fact, know that if Mobile Fidelity could put out Joy Division records or Talking Heads records or even more modern stuff that's come out in the last 10 to 20 years, they 1,000,000% would do this. It's all about licensing, and that is the reason that stuff doesn't get done. When they've been able to, they have. They did Weezer, they did Train, they did REM, they did a Megadeth record. So that's just specifically down to licensing. Okay. Can we redeem our... I don't know if there's going to be a $5 voucher. I'm just saying, like, I've seen that. I've seen these, like, class action lawsuits where you get this, please sign up and you'll get 47 cents off of your next Clorox wipe product. Making that up. I'm not saying that. Don't sue me. But don't sue me, Clorox. But you know what I mean. It's along those lines. And I think to myself, like, why in the world would I even go through the hassle of, I'm going to fill out no paperwork for 47 cents. I wouldn't do it for like $100. Like, I don't want to be involved. Like, leave me out of this, is like my thought. But I have no idea. Do you think some canceling will grow? I think some people, and I truly believe that some people are canceling that are hot, and they will buy these records once the dust settles. There are some people that are canceling because, and they will never buy again because of principle. That will happen. I don't know how many. Could be 1, could be 10,000. I don't know. There's some people that are canceling to send a message, but I feel like some of them will do it again, buy it again, and then, yeah, I think we've got a whole different spectrum of people that are canceling. Let's see. I'm consider pushing an old lady down the stairs for that Megadeth. All right, let's see. Any chance Mobile Fidelity could sue me? Man, I really don't know. I sure as crap hope not. You know, that's something I have to be conscious of, and I do think about. Like, I hope not. In that aspect, I like to think I have protections as far as free speech goes, and I try to tell people ahead of time that these are my opinions. I try to be as legally diplomatic, you know, I try to throw some legal disclaimers in some of these videos. I hope people realize that, you know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a financial advisor. So I try putting those in videos. Hopefully I'm protected under, you know, free speech, but who knows? We'll find out if somebody knocks on the door with some papers in their hand. Let's see. Yeah, I'm hoping that I couldn't be sued. But, you know, Rick, are you a lawyer, Rick? I don't know. I found many things in life where, like, you think things are a certain way, and you're like, there's no way possible that such and such could be such and such. And then you're like, down the road, you're like, oh, really? I guess I was wrong about that. So things definitely can change. I don't know. Nothing shocks me. I received checks for pennies with class action suits I didn't even sign up for. Yeah, that's a lawyer win for sure. I think the lawyers get, I don't know how it works. I'm guessing they get a percentage of the total amount collected. The more pennies, the better. Let's see. Man, yeah, I can't believe how much wax time and doles are filling up, and because it's like there's margin there. So I feel bad because I know with the record stores that are carrying these doles, wax time, these labels, because the margin's there. You know, you can't make a 50 margin on a brand new record. These, you know, you're getting half of that really. You get into like maybe 28 if you're lucky. So they do it for margins, but it's a shame because it's not a good product. There's typically better stuff out there. You know, do you think some random gray market label is going to do a better job putting out Kinda Blue than Columbia is going to do? That's probably, like, who owns the master tapes, the multi-tracks, all the files that they want, all the artwork that I mean, they're going to do a better job than random guy in Spain putting a record together from who knows what, CD. Yeah. Let's see. Hopefully if I get sued, one of these guys, one of you guys is a really good lawyer. So, but I don't think so. I haven't worried about that, truth be told. 24-hour stream. I know, I can't believe I've been yammering on here for 3 hours almost. I might just, oh my God, 3 hours and 3 minutes. I feel like I'm going to eat some White Castle today. I'm going to drive down there and get some sliders. Yeah, Rick says I helped improve their image. I don't know if I helped, but they do have an opportunity now. If everything goes good and everybody comes out of the other end of this, I should say that this is a better footing for them. Like, because now they can come out and say, this is exactly what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and why we think it's the best. And that is a much better way of operating than saying nothing. So, yeah. Well, Eats says he's a really good lawyer, and I haven't said anything wrong, so that's Knock on mahogany. Oh my God. Go to bed. My dog, I'm sorry. Shh. Let's see. Let's see. I wouldn't worry if you're ordering records from me, man. I send out hundreds of packages every day, and like I hear about a warped record like once every couple of 3 weeks, and that's no different in the December as it is in the middle of the summertime. And it ain't like you're on the hook. If you order something from me and it comes damaged, warped, scratched, seam split, you're getting a label. You're inconvenienced because you have to print the label and put it on your box, but you don't have to pay for the label, and I take it back. I mean, if you're in the United States, it's a little more complicated overseas, but you're not on the hook for anything, so you can order from me risk-free. If something's wrong, I'll fix it. Your stomach doesn't want... Yeah, my brain is the only thing that ever wants White Castle. Typically, after I've had White Castle, nothing else is thinking that was a good idea. One of these days, I'm going to show my collection. I don't know. I feel weird about doing it. I don't want to come off as like, look at me and all the records I have. And then, I always have to deal with the crap comments. You can only listen to one at a time or that kind of thing. No, nothing wrong, but you are one of the person I'll seat in the witness box for sure. Under what side, though? Who would I be the witness for? I would imagine either party would I would imagine either one would kind of look at me as like a wild card. That's a good question. So the Blue Train pre-orders are not only the best Tone Poet pre-orders that I ever had, but it's like right now it's like triple normally than what it normally would be. So it hasn't even been released, and I'm already at triple numbers. By time the actual release date, I could be 5 times the second best Tone Poet. So yeah, that's why I said that this is going to be so huge. Hopefully this opens the door for Blue Note to look at this and put some of these bigger titles with that full Tone Poet package. Mike, we've already seen your stereo. It's way past the look at me stage. I did that though because like I wanted to show you guys that I was, if I just said I have all of these opinions on these 15 records, people are gonna be like, based on what? I feel you have to give somebody a frame of reference of why you're making your decisions you are. So if you're going to talk about audio on a record, you have to talk about what you're listening to it on. You know what I mean? If I told you like, oh, so happens to be a record I'm pulling out here. Here's a funny story. So way back 10 years ago, I used to try to make a really concerted effort because I was losing track of the records that were all analog. Oh, crap, I forgot what I was going to say before. Hopefully you guys will remind me what I was saying 2 minutes ago. But I used to try to make a concerted effort on keeping track of what was analog and digital. So I pulled this Hall & Oates MOFI out of the record, and I had this sticker that I used to put on some of my records. And I don't know if you could see that there, but it actually says analog stereo. So yeah. Now what the hell was I saying? Oh man. Oh, so my point is, if I'm going to say like this is great, like you as a consumer need to know like what I'm playing this on. If I'm playing this on a Crosley or, a $90 turntable, you should probably have that information and judge my assessments of my thought on the sound quality based off of that. So I felt like talking about record quality, like showing you guys what I was listening to it on was kind of a necessity. I felt like that was like an obligation. So yeah, that's kind of the reason I did that. So yeah, maybe that at this point, who cares? All right. Mike, do you think there's a way to duplicate the RL Led Zeppelin 2? No, because if they could have, they would have. Because everybody knows how in demand and desirable that is. All right. I can see only an Art Blakey box set or a Mobley box set. The thing is, I don't know if a box set would even surpass it because of the cost. It's a lot. The bar of entry is a lot higher with a box set than it is with just a normal Tone Poet release like this. What's cool is they did it two separate ways, so that gives people the ability to either buy it once or twice. And I'm telling you, a lot of, I would say at least, and I'd have to look at the numbers when all's said and done, I would say at least 50% of the people have bought both the stereo and the mono. So if you're willing to buy a stereo and a mono of it, and I'm thinking Blue Note, I don't know, Blue Note's probably going to have these numbers too because they sell direct. But I think if they get a bunch of numbers that say people are willing to buy the same record over and over again, that might be an incentive for them to either put out things in stereo and mono where two tapes exist, and or make it as a classic and a Tone Poet. Okay. At least show you, I can't show you my most treasured records because I keep not everything in the same place. Let's see. I watch pretty much, I've seen most everybody's videos that are into vinyl. Like I've seen at least one of probably everybody's. I want to say that I watched, God, I wish I could get back some of the time that I spent watching some of these videos. I feel like I watched 200 videos on this MOFI deal. No joke. I mean, some of them were good. Some of them were hilarious. I mean, comical. Just some of them were just hilarious. Some of them people were trying to be informative, but didn't know what they were talking about. I'm trying to be nice, but some people, it's weird. Like I said, when you are a story or you're part of a story and you're in and you're like hearing other people talk about it, you look at things from a different way when you were in the middle of it. You know what I mean? Things come off differently. All right, I'm going to answer a few more questions and then I'm going to probably get out of here. 3 hours and 12 minutes is an obscene amount of time. Man, I can really talk. My wife isn't lying to me when she says I never shut up. This is like proof positive here. John says, can you briefly describe the difference between the term mix and mastering? So wildly different. So when you're in the studio and you're making a record, say it's a 24 track, meaning you have 24 different tracks of music. You might have the drums on 4 of those tracks. You know, one might be the snare drum, one might be a tom, one might be a cymbal. Then you might have the vocal on one. Okay, so those are different tracks. A mix is the placement of the music in the final mix, which is essentially 2 tracks, a left speaker and a right speaker. But you take those 24 tracks and you mix them to your liking. Maybe you want a little bit more bass guitar, so you'll turn the fader up on the console, up on the bass. Maybe you'll want, a little less guitar. You want a little bit more hi-hat. So that final mix. And then there's the panning. Where do you want it on the sound stage? Do you want it in the middle of the sound stage? Do you want it to the left or do you want it to the right? So that is a mix. The final choice of the recording engineer's mix is generally put then to a 2-track master. When you remaster a record, you only have that 2-track. You don't go back to the 24 tracks and remix the record. When you remaster it, You are essentially doing things like changing levels. You are making maybe a little more bass, a little less bass. You are essentially getting things to mesh well together. A lot of things are not recorded in the same studio at the same time on the same equipment. So you are essentially dialing in the tracks to be more cohesive and match better. So a mastering engineer can only work within those confines. A good example is the new Beatles remixes of, say, Sgt. Pepper or Let It Be, to where they are completely going back to the original multi-tracks and reimagining those from a new perspective. White Castle's great, Todd. Joel, I don't know what you're talking about. White Castle's fantastic. Love it. Crinkle cut fries, whew, good times. So music on vinyl, I mentioned this already, but you give me $5, so I'm going to answer it again. They do a lot of great job within the realm of the digital era. So the stuff that came out originally digitally, they do a fantastic job on. There's a lot of stuff that they've done that's older that has been bested by whether it's originals or other audiophile labels, but their sweet spot is stuff from the digital age. Drastic Plastic, they do a lot less stuff. Some of their stuff has been good, though. It has. Let's see, the Wild Times. Yeah, Wild Times. All it says is Wild Times. Mike, you eat too much fast food. I know, it's so bad, but it's so hard to be just making meals all the time, especially I'm in the house by myself today. Oh my God, it's like my wife is on here and telling me not to. You're ruining my White Castle, man. I'm having second thoughts because I do eat too much. Let's see. How can jazz records from the 50s and 60s sound so much better than rock albums recorded much later? Because jazz records were recorded differently. Rock records were typically always recorded to a multi-track tape machine, and then they were mixed. Good thing I just mentioned this. And then they were mixed to a 2-track master. So there's generational loss. And they would also take that multi-track and they would go back and they would fix things over and over and over. So they would run the tape, back it up, add a guitar, overlay another guitar, maybe go back, and they would play the same tape maybe 100 times, 200 times in making that record. So there's a lot of generational loss on the multi-tracks because of that. Then they would do a 2-track master off of that. Then a lot of times records were never even cut from the master tape. They were cut from production copies, which was a copy of the master, which was already a copy of the multi-tracks. Most jazz records, for instance, like Rudy Van Gelder. Rudy Van Gelder did everything for the most part, especially for a lot of the first, 10 years. He did everything from a 2-track tape. So he recorded live to 2-track. A lot of the records you're listening to, they are live takes. Everything was recorded and done live and mixed on the spot, on the fly, to a 2-track tape. Then Rudy would take that 2-track tape, not a production master, and he would cut a record directly from that. So that's kind of the equivalent of if they were to do a cut directly from the multi-track tape on a rock record, which that's not a thing. So, yeah. No, I'm definitely not a recording or mastering engineer. But I mean, I know things. Like, this isn't... I don't just come on YouTube and pontificate about stuff I don't know about. I mean, I've been in the weeds for this stuff my whole life. It's been something that, I've got an OCD issue for sure, and I get onto something and then I fixate on things, and I could spend very, very long amounts of time researching and learning, and, I do this for business. So, I mean, I knew all this stuff beforehand, but now I can get paid to do it, so. Let's see, what's up next for the shootout? I don't want to give it away, but it has a MOFI record in it. The MOFI record comes out really good. I had to go back and I'm going to re-record it. And yeah, I'm going to re-record it. This way I can at least get the information in there. I'm not holding up the all analog cut from the original master tape. Take that part out. When's the next live? I actually do this, and not for 3.5 hours, but I do this the first Sunday of every single month, typically with my wife. But I'm going to do, I don't know, I might do some live unboxings at the store, and then I'm doing a live whatnot auction on Sunday, 4 o'clock Arizona time. But that's more like, not me chatting about records, but that's me selling records. So, yeah. I mean, I pontificate a little bit during those, but not too much, because if and I'm going to auction off 200 records. There's a classic Led Zeppelin that's going to be in that. But for the most part, I'm trying to have 200 records. If I talk too much, it'll turn into, a 10-hour stream. Dylan, don't give me money, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Me and Dylan at some point, and I mentioned it to him, and he is down for it, but we're going to do some sort of like live stream. I'm sure there's stuff we could talk about. I know he's busy. I'm busy. Let's see. Any must-have color variants coming out? That's... Thanks. Be careful. Oh my God, the lawyers tell me. What did I say? Everything in this video is my personal opinion. I know nothing. What processes, Eats, am I talking about? Are we talking about the processes of making records? I mean, I think those processes, when I talk about that, that's kind of like, there's been books written on this. Mastering engineers have talked about this. But when you just answered and your involvement with the MOFI situation, I probably should stop talking about the MOFI situation. Oh boy. I'm kind of curious to what I said, though. I don't even remember. I'm going to have to... all that encompasses records, including selling. I'm just going to have to start every video with, hi, I'm Mike, owner of the In-Groove. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Don't take anything I say for advice on anything. Now let's talk about such and such. I think that might be the way things have to go. Let's see. Yeah, it's sad that that's the case, but yeah. He could be an attorney. I don't know. I mean, we're in a litigious world. There's a lot of people getting sued for stuff. Hopefully I'm not going to be one of them. See, that's pretty cool. Somebody was selling a Wang Chung acetate on Whatnot. Whatnot is really just... Whatnot, I mean, I do more than just sell records. I talk about records. I mean, like, I give opinions and reviews. I mean, I think I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I would be categorized as a reviewer. And I provide some news. This MOFI thing was news. So I'm like, Mike, record seller, retailer. I help. I'm an executive producer on a record. I've done other stuff. But I think reviews, I think I give a lot of reviews. But reviews, I hope people realize, are just one guy's opinion, not gospel. Let's see. Yeah, and that's kind of Noble says, no matter what you say, people have a problem. And I think that's kind of the predicament I see Mobile Fidelity is in. Like, the way I see it is people coming, there was never just going to be a good way. There just wasn't. Let's see. Do you sell noise music? Yes, I do. Yeah, so Whatnot is really weird on their shipping. I don't know how to describe that. What they do is just bizarre. Like, you just put in the information of the record and it selects shipping. We'll see. Like, the Whatnot thing is a new thing. I'm just learning. I think, to be honest, there's very few people in the vinyl marketplace that are experienced on Whatnot. It feels like every single live stream I go into, it's like this person either has no clue about records or has no clue how to sell on the platform, myself included. So, yeah. What will you do? The Wax says, what will you do when the next whistleblower sends you some juicy news? I'm not in the business of just breaking. It would have to be something egregious, and it would have to pertain to me in a way. And in this, things pertain to me because I sell records, I talk about records, I review records. I mean, this had a lot of things that I did an analog top 100 list that had 8 Mobile Fidelity records on the list as all analog that were not all analog. So there was like some tie in there. But, say somebody contacted me and said so-and-so was using tubes made by slave children in the Yucatan from ivory. Like, I'm not going to get involved in that. Like, they can contact CNN or like a news agency. But this kind of pertained to me in a way, so yeah. I get people tell me things. Things that, yeah, some bizarre stuff. I do get a lot of things. And this wasn't just, again, I said this at the beginning of the video, and a lot of you guys probably weren't here 3 hours and 27 minutes ago. But this, I'll skip that. Mike, it would be much better if you did your auction on YouTube. There's no mechanism for that. If YouTube had the ability to do auctions in the Whatnot type platform, I would do that. But yeah, I will say, and I'll finish my previous thought. Nobody knows. It wasn't. There was a lot of information coming my way. A lot of information, and I didn't talk to the same person and people that spoke to everybody else. I talked to them too, but there was other people involved to where I felt comfortable enough making a video, which I clearly said was my opinion and I speculated, not fact. All right. I truly hope I can be talking about, I'll talk about hot stampers next video. Like, that's more entertaining than me at this point. So, yeah. So, I'm going to answer one more question. And then I'm going to White Castle. One more. That's it. I'm going to have some sliders with cheese. I'll give a second. Got to find a good one, you know what I mean? I'm laughing at the wax here. Let's see. I know all this silence. See, this would be good when Angel's here. See, that's why I told her to do this, because she could be over here, you know, juggling or something. Will you answer 2 more? Technically, I'm going to answer that, but I'm not going to count it. But I'm not seeing 1 question. Let's see. Culvers. We do have a Culvers here. I'm just going to answer something because this is a good title just because it's this is a good question to answer because it's like a personal request. My favorite record of all time, maybe my favorite, it's definitely my favorite jazz record of all time, but my favorite record of all time is Art Blakey. Oh, let's just go with jazz. My favorite jazz record of all time is Art Blakey's Moanin'. I love that record, and I have it on SRX vinyl, and I have it on analog. I got this many copies. I mean, and I'm deep in the weeds even on the originals. I got the original, I got the second press without the trademark logo, then I've got the third press that's still plasticide, I believe, but not deep. I've got every version of possibly imaginable of that record. But for selfish reasons, I would love to see a super high quality version of that record in print. Yeah, so with that, but a lot of other records as well. Thanks, guys. White Castle time. Until next time.